Is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camila Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camila Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Monday, the 28th of July. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Emily Carver.
I like your Prime Minister. He's slightly more liberal than I am, as you've probably heard. But he's a good man. He got a trade deal done.
Well, the Prime Minister will meet President Trump today at his golf course in Turnbury, Scotland. A trade deal, Gaza and the Ukraine war are all on the official agenda.
Trump sent shockwaves, didn't he, around the world as he answered Bev Turner's question on illegal migration.
On immigration, you better get your act together. Or you're not going to have Europe anymore. You got to get your act together.
Commissioner, in other news, has demanded an urgent meeting with Yvette Cooper to seek the closure of the Epping Asylum Hotel at the centre of those recent protests.
Staff have been crying out for tasers to be authorised for use across the adult male estate, and I was very pleased to be able to sign off on this trial. It will run over the summer period.
Yes, the Justice Secretary there wants to keep prison staff safe as she announces a taser trial in male prisons. Mark White, our Home Security Editor, joins a prison officers training session.
At this security facility, a mock scenario of the type of violence that's all too common within our prisons.
Elsewhere, outraged MPs demanded action last night as it emerged that a government jobs website was recruiting what it described as a Sharia law administrator.
And it's a powerful speech in Parliament exposing the reality of grooming gangs, but it's been blocked on social media. Yes, due to new restrictions under the Online Safety Act. Has so-called online safety already become political censorship?
It was a nail-biter, but yes, we did it. Now 2 days of celebration as England women win the Euros for a second time. Today, they're off to number 10, and tomorrow it's the big one, an open-top bus parade in central London.
Back-to-back European Championships for the Lionesses as they secured victory in that dramatic penalty shootout against Spain in Basel last night.
You know, this might be the first time that we've both watched the same football match.
You must have watched a sort of a World Cup game
Okay, yes, to be fair, yes. Okay, in recent months.
Yeah, in recent months, for sure.
In recent months. It was good, wasn't it?
But
it was good.
Well, it's remarkable, though, because, I mean, it's almost now become expected that when the England women's team play, it will go to penalties, it will be absolutely edge-of-the-seat stuff until the last possible moments.
You know, I posted something on X, on Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, about, oh, finally some good news, how lovely. And I get some men saying, oh, well, the quality's rubbish, it's not proper football, or they're rubbish. It's like, OK, fine, yes, no one thinks they're the same as Cristiano Ronaldo, OK, or David Beckham or Wayne Rooney, OK? But it's still a massive achievement. They still got to compete against, you know, the other European countries. It's a bit of a miserable approach, isn't it? Oh, well, they're not as good as the men. Well, yeah, obviously.
But I think it is remarkable to see just the drama and the suspense. But so much more to come in the show today. Of course, we'll be going live to Turnbury as the Prime Minister meets the US President. That's to come live after your latest news headlines.
Very good afternoon. It's just gone 12 o'clock. These are your latest headlines. Top story today, Sir Keir Starmer will meet with US President Donald Trump for a bilateral meeting in Scotland this afternoon, with a trade deal, Gaza and Ukraine all on the agenda. It comes as leaders of the United States and the European Union have reached a landmark trade deal during a meeting yesterday. EU President Ursula von der Leyen said it will bring stability as the pair announced the 15% tariffs across the board. And as you were just hearing, celebrations are in store as the Lionesses retained their title and won the Euros women's final. After taking the win in penalties, fans are still celebrating across the country. Chloe Kelly scored the winning spot kick after two huge saves from goalkeeper Hannah Hampton. The King has congratulated the squad and, in his words, the next task is to bring home the World Cup in 2027, if you possibly can. The Lionesses will celebrate with an open-top bus parade in central London and a trip to Downing Street, but there are no plans for a bank holiday. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has criticised the police this morning, saying, quote, "Most of us don't even bother to report a crime because we don't think the police will do anything about it." Mr Farage spoke from the party's new HQ shortly after announcing that Colin Sutton, the detective who led the hunt for serial killer Levi Belfield, has joined Reform UK and appointed as the party's police and crime advisor. Newly appointed Mr Sutton added that the public services have got even worse under Labour and warned that too many crimes were being forgotten about as public order had to be policed fairly. Prime Minister Starmer will reportedly convene a special cabinet meeting this week, expected to focus on Gaza as pressure mounts on the UK to recognise a Palestinian state. Ministers are currently in summer recess, but growing concern over the humanitarian crisis has prompted the suggested early return. Foreign Secretary David Lammy has welcomed Israel's pauses in military operations, calling them essential but long overdue. But he has warned that limited access won't be enough. And it's day 4 of strike action by resident doctors in England, walking out in a pay dispute that's seen the government's 5.4% offer firmly rejected. Doctors say they've lost nearly 30% in real terms since 2008 and are demanding full restoration. Health Secretary Wes Streeting thanked NHS staff who stayed on shift this weekend, while Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch pledged to ban doctors' strikes entirely if she was elected, putting the medics under the same legal limits as the police and the military.
Got 28% over 3 years. That was given to them. Labour said, we're going to come in. What we're going to do is we're going to dish out the dosh. Everybody will be happy and they'll stop striking. We dished out the dosh, millions of pounds through the door, taxpayers picking up the tab, and the end result is they've come back for 29%. I don't know when you last saw a 29% pay rise, but it's not something that the world gets to see. And the reality is that money comes from taxpayers.
That was Deputy Chairman of the Conservative Party, Matt Vickers, hitting out at the government for failing to stop those strikes. In some other medical news, pharmacists are warning that surging demand for weight loss injections could soon become unsustainable. A new poll from the National Pharmacy Association reveals that over a fifth of UK adults and more than a third of under 35s have tried to access weight loss meds in the past year. But experts say that many patients are unsuitable and risk treating the injections just like a quick fix. Now, a stark warning today. The head of the Prisons Officers Union says it may only be a matter of time before a prison officer is killed amid what he calls an epidemic of violence behind bars. It comes as the Justice Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, approves a trial of tasers now issued to specialist officers in Oxfordshire and South Yorkshire. The devices will only be used in high-threat situations like riots or hostage crises. Now, this follows the violent attacks on officers in recent months by two of the country's most dangerous and notorious inmates. Ms Mahmood said she refuses to tolerate record levels of violence.
I've inherited a situation where we have unacceptable levels of violence in our prison estate, and I've wanted to make decisions that put us in a position where our staff are safer and that we are able to de-escalate incidents of violent disorder in our prisons in a safer way as possible. I know that staff have been crying out for tasers to be authorised for use across the adult male estate, and I was very pleased to be able to sign off on this trial. It will run over the summer period, and it's designed to make sure that we can learn lessons about the use of tasers within a custodial environment.
Now, millions of phones across the UK will sound a 10-second siren this September as part of the second national test of the emergency alert system. The government will send out a short text at around 3 p.m. on Sunday the 7th of September, warning people that it is just a test. The move forms part of a new resilience action plan aimed at strengthening the UK's emergency preparedness. More headlines in just under half an hour, but first let's check in on the markets.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
And here's a quick snapshot of the afternoon's markets. The pound will buy you $1.341 and 1.150 euros. The price of gold is £2,487.81 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 9,131 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is 9 minutes past midday. Now, Sir Keir Starmer will shortly arrive at the Turnbury Golf Club in Scotland, where he'll hold talks with the US President Donald Trump.
Yes, they're expected to iron out the final details of a US-UK trade deal, as well as talk about the ongoing conflicts in Ukraine and Gaza.
Well, it comes only a day after Donald Trump's meeting with the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, on British soil. Well, the highlight of that meeting was in reaction to GB News' very own Bev Turner, who asked Donald Trump and Ursula von der Leyen about migration.
You said that Europe has been crushed by mass migration, and I wonder whether your friends on the other side of the room agree with you on that.
Well, I'd let you respond to that if you'd like.
So, we have been working intensively on the topic of irregular migration. And we have, from the very beginning, said that migration is a European challenge that needs a European answer. As Europeans, we will fulfill our international obligations, as we've done in the past, also in the future. But we, as Europeans, are the ones who decide who comes to the European Union and under what circumstances, and not the smugglers and traffickers. That's the principle in which we are working.
Immigration, Europe has a tremendous problem, and we do too, but we've sealed our borders. We have nobody coming in, and we have hundreds of thousands of people being taken out, and the bad ones first, and I think we're doing a very good job of that. But we had, I mean, it literally registered 0 people last month. You probably saw that, nobody. And Europe has a very similar problem.
Well, there you go. Let's speak to GB News presenter Bev Turner, who joins us live from Scotland. Bev, you've been extremely busy over the past few days, and thank you. It's been really quite exciting to watch you going out and about and speaking to Donald Trump. As a new member of the press pack, Bev, how are you finding the responses you're getting from the president?
Good. I think he's happy to see probably a new face, maybe, amongst the team. This press corps is kind of small. There are only 13 seats on Air Force One, and quite a few of those are taken up actually by photographers. There are a lot of official photographers here. So it's a small group of us. It feels like an enormous privilege And I think not least, Emily and Tom, is because so much of what's happening in America is relevant to a British audience more than at any other time in history, it seems. We have so many of the same issues, don't we? We have inflation, we have migration, we have energy, we have crime. So many issues are similar across the world and actually between us and America, and they are solving them in a way that we simply are not. And so I, for one, am very interested to see the measures that this president is taking, and hoping perhaps on a day like today, Keir Starmer might pick his brains and come back with a few useful ideas.
What do you think the relationship of these two men has developed into? Keir Starmer obviously has tried to sort of get on the best side of Donald Trump. And to be fair, Donald Trump continually talks about him as a friend, probably more so than any other leader in this part of the world. Starmer's playing quite a good game on this one.
I think you've got to do well to lose the affection of Donald Trump when you are British, because he does hold this country in very high regard. One of the things that he's going to do while he's here is open a memorial garden to his mother, actually. And so he does feel a huge amount of compassion and connection to the UK, and particularly to Scotland. This property is phenomenal. This golf course that we're at here, Turnbury. I mean, Donald Trump says it's the most beautiful golf course in the world. Well, of course he would, because everything he says is superlative. But he's probably not wrong. It is stunning. I've been posting pictures on social media. GBNews have got some packages up on YouTube and on X and on Instagram showing the behind-the-scenes story of my arrival here. And seriously, the footage when you come along from Glasgow, we've travelled in from Glasgow down to Turnbury, along the coast, suddenly the beach is there, and suddenly there is this incredible hotel looking down onto the golf course. It's very beautiful. You can see why he loves being here. And therefore, I think that plays into his relationship with Starmer. The first question I asked him on Friday when he got off Air Force One was about free speech, because I really would love to hear Donald Trump say something condemning the British position on free speech. But actually, he took it as an opportunity to say how much he liked our Prime Minister, very diplomatic. And so let's see. I'm going to try and bring that up again this afternoon. We're going to have to go any second, because I think we're about to go out now to meet them both.
You get off and go and meet and report on that arrival. No doubt we'll see you and catch up with you a little bit later.
Fantastic stuff. Yes, there's going to be a lot to talk about, isn't there, between these two gentlemen. Interesting that it's all taking place on Donald Trump's golf course. Of course, I've never been and visited these golf courses, but yes, as Bev says, they're certainly very impressive. But it'll be very interesting. Will they talk about things like immigration? Will it be centred around foreign conflicts, or will it be a bit of chit-chat?
Well, I think we've got the official agenda, which, of course, is trade, is Ukraine, is Gaza. But Donald Trump never plays by the official script of these sorts of occasions. I mean, they'll get there together. There'll be a massive pack of the press around them, and it'll be a free-for-all. Any question under the sun. We know how Donald Trump deals with these things. So yeah. I think even though the official agenda is, let's be honest, relatively dry, and even though the official agenda and what Keir Starmer will want to talk about might be fairly perfunctory, I think there's going to be fireworks underneath it.
Yes, will free speech be raised after this online safety act? They're very aware of all this stuff, aren't they, over in America, and the impact there. Will there be talk of illegal migration? It did appear as though Donald Trump liked answering a question on that issue.
Absolutely.
Will he push the Prime Minister on that?
But also the Treasury Department in the United States has been very concerned about the digital services tax. That is basically a big tax that the UK recently imposed on, let's face it, mainly American companies. I mean, it does seem like a protectionist act, really. So I suppose one of the questions is, will that play part of the trade talks as well?
Might well do. Should we speak to Republican strategist Matthew Hurt, who's on the line for us? Matthew, thank you very much. What will Donald Trump be wanting to get out of this meeting? Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I think the big discussion here is trade and tariffs. Obviously, a little bit of a setback for Keir Starmer on the steel tariffs. But we saw President Trump yesterday with the European Union come out with a big win, a win for the United States and the European Union. I think that is what President Trump wants, is a win, and a win with the United Kingdom and with Great Britain, I think is another top item on his agenda. And I think that's what we're going to see from the conversation with Prime Minister Keir Starmer.
How does Donald Trump define a win? Because generally in trade, most economists would say you can have a mutually beneficial deal where both sides are better off as a result of the exchange. But the way that Donald Trump has spoken about trade in the past has seemed relatively zero-sum. You know, if one side wins, the other side must lose. You must get more out of this. The trade must be more in one direction than the other. Does Donald Trump, do you think, accept that there can be win-win, non-zero-sum arrangements?
You know, I think that what we see in the trade conversation is President Trump generally starts by negotiating fairly high. This is what we see with 30% tariffs or 50% tariffs on steel. And then he comes down, making it look like, and indeed it is a win for both the United States and our trade partners. I do believe that President Trump's primary concern is the American economy. In an instance where the American economy can come out ahead, even if that is just nominally ahead of another economy, I think that's a win for the United States and a win for President Trump.
Now, there are reports that Keir Starmer will want to push Donald Trump to adopt a stronger approach vis-a-vis Israel and what's going on in Gaza. Do you suspect Donald Trump would listen to Keir Starmer on that issue?
I think President Trump is interested in listening to the Prime Minister, but President Trump already made comments over the weekend about French President Emmanuel Macron's comments about Gaza and Palestine. I don't think we're going to see much movement on support for Israel or, as Emmanuel Macron said, this two-state solution, which we haven't talked about in quite a long time.
Yes, there seems to be a lot of pressure on that in the United Kingdom. Almost 40% of MPs in the House of Commons now signing a motion to support a recognition of a Palestinian state, although the government still opposes that as official policy. I wonder, could these conversations become derailed by questions thrown into the media, by disagreements that Trump might bring up, or do you think it will be a smooth affair?
Well, certainly outlets like the BBC would love to ask questions that would drive a wedge between President Trump and Keir Starmer. I think both of these men want a positive outcome. They want positive interaction. As you said just moments ago, President Trump has many nice things to say about the Prime Minister, and I think that is the tone and tenor of the conversation we expect to see in Turnbury.
He's taken a strong approach when it comes to immigration in some of his responses to the press, including from our Beverly Turner, saying you better get your act together or you're not going to have Europe anymore. You've got to stop this horrible invasion that is happening to Europe, many countries in Europe. This immigration is killing Europe. Do you think he would express that directly to Keir Starmer?
Absolutely. As President Trump said just over the weekend, we've had zero migration in the last month. President Trump's immigration infrastructure is targeting violent criminals. And I think the conversation around that is very important, particularly what we're seeing in parts of Europe and in parts of the United Kingdom.
Now, there is a question with regard to these tariffs where there have been huge, as you say, opening gambits, high starting points for this. You know, over 100% on certain countries, 50% on other countries, even allies, higher than that. Amongst the sort of community who are very interested in stocks and shares, traders and the like, they've come up with an acronym, TACO. Trump always chickens out, because those tariffs don't ever end up being the very, very high levels that we've seen. And we've seen the stock market in the United States recover massively over the last few months because those very high tariffs that were initially announced don't seem to be what is actually going to come out in actuality. To what extent do you think this is Trump's strategy all along? Or could this just be Trump potentially, in the words of that rather unkind acronym, chickening out due to market reaction?
Well, this has been Trump's modus operandi for his entire business career, to start from a position of strength and then to negotiate to a place of mutual benefit. And so the folks who toss around taco as a pejorative, I think it's unfounded, and it is, quite frankly, it's silly.
OK, well, thank you very much indeed for joining us, Matthew Hurt, Republican strategist. Great to have you on the show this afternoon. Yeah, so we are waiting now. The Prime Minister is due to arrive in Turnbury to have those talks with Donald Trump. Could be a lot on the agenda that's not on the official agenda, it sounds as though.
Well, do stay with us. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Of course, we will be going live to that meeting between the President and the Prime Minister when we have it. Also on the show today, outraged MPs demand action last night as it emerged that a government job site was recruiting what was described as a Sharia law administrator.
As well, a police commissioner has demanded an urgent meeting with Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, to seek the immediate closure of the Epping Asylum Hotel at the centre of recent protests.
Five hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very, very easy tonight on the
unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Tell me now, are you concerned about these driverless cars, Tim, that are going to be put into operation in London by as early as next year?
Well, Uber is preparing to test fully self-driving taxis on London's roads for the first time. By 2026, I have an observation there that if you look at Elon Musk over the last 5 or 6 years, kept promising that there were going to be driverless cars. The norm in America, and it hasn't happened yet. So I'd be very surprised if by 2026 that's actually on the streets of London. I'm more intrigued, though, if they are driverless robotic cars, if they're still going to give you a review. You know, you get your 5 stars at the end if you were a good passenger. Who's going to review how good you are once you're in these cars?
Would you trust it? Would you take one?
I think
I would, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Really?
Would you, Claire?
I know, I'm a bit reticent.
I'm a bit nervous about it.
Yeah, accepting a driverless
I think
car.
what they do eventually is they'll take any joy out of driving that there is. You get you won't get in, you feel the smell, get the gear stick. You know, I mean, a car is a great joyous thing
I don't take any joy from
to drive.
Yeah.
I take no joy. It's awful.
What?
Such a chore.
Is that because
driving.
Are you a good driver?
No, I'm a terrible
driver.
driver.
Why?
So maybe this could be a good thing for me.
I think it's
I mean,
the
you see the other
drivers
side of
that take the joy out of it sometimes.
Oh, I just think, you imagine a glitch in the Matrix with a driverless car. What on earth
You'd have to hop in the front seat.
I live in Chiswick, and the Chiswick High Road, like lots of high roads in many towns and villages.
Well, it's the bus lanes that's a problem with
Chiswick High Road. Well, they've closed all those down now, and if an ambulance goes down there, it's carnage trying to get through to whoever they're needing to treat.
Or in King Street, if a bus tries to overtake a bus or anything else, you can't do it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 25 minutes past midday. Now, we're still waiting for the meeting between Donald Trump and Keir Starmer. Originally, it was meant to happen about 25 minutes ago, but as we've learned with Donald Trump over the course of many years reporting on his various comings and goings, sometimes timings do indeed slip.
He hasn't finished his round. It could be Keir Starmer's fault.
Perhaps
is true. The flight is a little slow.
Perhaps the flight, perhaps the Scottish weather. I mean, it could be any number of things. But why don't we discuss it a bit further with Lord Darroch, Kim Darroch, the former British ambassador to the United States. Thanks so much for joining us, Lord Darroch. There was, of course, a lot of speculation that Donald Trump 2.0, his second term, would be much about the same as his first term. But it's appeared different on just about every level. I wonder what observations you have compared to when you were over there in DC in the first term to what we're seeing now. What's changed?
You're absolutely right. It is very different. And there are a number of factors here.
First of all, Trump won a bigger victory, amazingly, in 2024 than in 2016. He won the popular vote as well as the Electoral College, and he actually did better with every voter demographic and in every state. Doesn't mean he won them all, but he did better everywhere. So he finds that, understandably, hugely validating. Second, in his first term, he didn't know a lot of people in Washington, and he took on a lot of mainstream Republican figures for his cabinet and his White House, some of whom really didn't agree with him and actually tried to block some of his agenda. So that held him back, as did the pandemic in his first term. Third point here, he has a Supreme Court that leans heavily right. He has majorities in both houses of Congress. And although he will troll us occasionally that he's going to run for a third term, this is very probably his last term of office. So he's a man in a hurry with his eye on the history books. So that means that what you have now is Trump unleashed. No constraints, no guardrails. He's going for it. And you see that in everything he's doing, both domestically and internationally.
How has he shown himself to be more bullish this time around?
Well, if you look at what he's doing in terms of, say, immigration in the United States, what he's doing is what he wanted to do in his first term but was held back from doing. And he sent troops to the southern border, and he seems to have limited illegals coming across there almost to zero. Internationally, he's pretty active. He has taken a victory lap with NATO because he's managed to get, he's been a big factor in defence spending across Europe, going up to projected 3.5%. He can claim that that was largely down to him. And you see he's quite active in terms of what's going on in Gaza and in the Middle East with Iran. And there's a lot more to come.
Lord Darragh, we're running out of time, so I just want to ask you one final question very, very briefly, if I may. How do you rate Keir Starmer's diplomacy with dealing with Donald Trump? Has he made the right calls, and how could he mess it up?
Yeah, it's a good question. Look, maybe to some surprise, he's actually handled Donald Trump very well so far. He did that phone call after the assassination attempt. He did that meeting in Trump Tower before the election. He got in quickly to the White House after the election. He's got a trade deal that every day looks a little bit better, because it's better than the EU deal, it's better than the deal the Japanese have just done. And he seems most of all to have a good personal relationship, which a lot of people wouldn't have expected. So he's had his problems domestically, as the Prime Minister, but this is a success story for him so far.
We're being told that the final deal, the final details of this UK-US trade deal are going to be ironed out over the next day. I mean, is that realistic?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think if I were Keir Starmer, I wouldn't want to get into detailed discussions on any loose ends from that trade deal, because it looks good as it is. We're not going to get a better deal out of the Americans, but if any of those loose ends are pursued by the Americans, it could potentially get a little worse. I think if I'm Keir Starmer, I would hope we don't get into much discussion on that. That said, there's always a risk with Donald Trump because, as you can see, he changes his mind daily, and he will talk about tariffs on pharmaceuticals, tariffs on American films, who knows what. So this will be a long-running story.
OK. Well, Lord Darragh, Kim Darroch, thanks so much for joining us and talking through this big particular issue. I mean, my goodness me, Emily, this is going to be a moment for Keir Starmer that is going to, I think, maybe define him for a lot of MPs. He's facing a big issue on his left. Jeremy Corbyn's founding a new political party that has already peeled away one Labour MP.
Yeah.
I wonder, if he gets too close to Trump, does he find a political issue for himself?
If he's seen to be too friendly.
Yeah.
Well,
if he bends down and picks up papers again.
Quite possibly, but does he look like the adult in the room? Does he look like the adult in the room? That's what we were told, weren't we, when Labour came into power. The adults are back in the room. Sensible. You have to be friends with, politicians around the world that you don't necessarily agree with or see eye to eye on or share the same worldview on. But, of course, there will be those on the left and elsewhere who say, well, what are your principles, Sir Keir Starmer? Where exactly do you stand? Are you going to be pushed around by the US president, someone that you previously haven't been supportive of?
Well, this is the political risk. At the next general election, Keir Starmer wants it to to be Starmer versus Farage. He thinks that's how he sort of pushes all the other parties out the way, and he gets people on the left to hold their noses and think, oh, I don't much like Keir Starmer. He's not an inspiring guy, but he's better than Farage, so I'll vote for him. That's how he thinks he wins his next term in government. But if you have a Jeremy Corbyn-led party that is willing to say there's no difference between Starmer and Farage. They're all in bed with Trump. They're all in bed with the billionaires and they support wars around the world and they hate the Palestinians. And if they can sort of sell that image, then do they peel away, 10, 20% of the Labour vote? And does Starmer face a real electoral problem with the coalition that he wants to build?
Now, I wonder if Keir Starmer does see it as clearly as you have explained there. That he wants to set this up as Nigel Farage versus Keir Starmer. I mean, perhaps you're right, but of course, as you say, things have gotten more complicated with this Jeremy Corbyn threat now on his left. I mean, it's a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. But we are going to take a quick break. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. We've got lots more coming up, though.
Staff have been crying out for tasers to be authorised for use across the adult male estate, and I was very pleased to be able to sign off on this trial. It will run over the summer period.
Yes, the Justice Secretary wants to keep prison staff safe as she announces a taser trial in male prisons. Our very own Mark White joins a prison officers training session.
At this security facility, a mock scenario of the type of violence that's all too common within our prisons.
But of course, after the break, we are going to be going live to Turnbury in Scotland. The Prime Minister and Donald Trump are expected to hold a bilateral meeting before their crunch talks on trade, Gaza, Ukraine, and perhaps much else. That's after your headlines.
Very good afternoon. The headlines shortly after 12:30. Any moment now, Sir Keir Starmer will arrive at Turnbury for his bilateral meeting with US President Donald Trump. Seeing live pictures on your screen from Scotland. They've got a trade deal, Gaza and Ukraine all on the agenda. And the Lionesses have celebrated their historic Euros victory by raising a glass and dancing with a dog after defending their Euros title in a win against Spain. Speaking from the new Reform HQ this morning, party leader Nigel Farage has criticised the police, saying, quote, most of us don't even bother to report crime because we don't think the police will do anything about it. This comes shortly after confirming top detective Colin Sutton's appointment as Reform UK's police and crime advisor. And it's day 4 of strike action by resident doctors in England, walking out in a pay dispute that's seen the government's 5.4% offer firmly rejected. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 35 minutes past midday. And hotels housing migrants saw a wave of protests and counter-protests over the weekend.
Yes, police fear Britain could face another summer of unrest, a year on from the Southport riots last summer.
Well, about 1,000 demonstrators and indeed counter-protesters faced off outside the Bell Hotel in Epping.
And the journalist Jack Hadfield joins us now to discuss this. Jack, thank you very much. You've been a busy man over the last few days. There are real fears from the police and the government, presumably, that these types of protests are going to spill out across the country. They already are, aren't they, Jack?
Yes, exactly. As we saw, it started off in Epping and then a few days later spread to the Britannia Hotel, where I was down there quite a few days this week. Then after Epping, there was one already scheduled for Norwich on Saturday, and as we've just seen at that time, then it scaled out to Ashfield, Leeds, I believe Southampton as well. Ashfield was quite a little bit fiery, probably the most fiery out of the protests that we've seen across the country. But yeah, I think this is going to keep continuing, especially if the government does close down the Bell Hotel. There's been no indication currently that they have or that they will necessarily. But obviously, Essex Council, the Epping Forest Council, on Thursday voted to support the closure of the hotel. Now, obviously, this doesn't actually mean anything, but what it does mean is that there'll be more pressure on the government to close it down. However...
And the Crime Commissioner getting involved as well.
Exactly. Now, if they do close it down...
Jack, I'm so sorry, we're going to have to interrupt you because we're going to go live to Turnbury in a second. We should say that the Chief Superintendent, Simon Anslow, said that I want to thank those who attended the peaceful protests in the nature of both sides. Our role is to ensure that you can express your democratic right to protect safely and lawfully, and we had a proportionate and robust plan in place to ensure that could happen. Let's go live to Turnbury. Well, this is Keir Starmer's motorcade arriving at Turnbury Golf Course. Of course, the President, Donald Trump, has been there since Friday. The Prime Minister today, on Monday, arriving to try and continue what has actually been, according to many analysts, a fruitful relationship between these two world leaders.
Yes, I mean, it has been quite pleasant, hasn't it? Lots of compliments. Donald Trump being very friendly indeed towards Sir Keir Starmer. But what will actually be discussed today? I mean, we know that Gaza may be on the table. We know that Ukraine may be on the table. Of course, trade, the economy, our economic ties. But will issues like free speech and illegal migration come into it as well? We can hear the bagpipes.
We can. What a marvellous arrival. I wonder... who laid on the bagpipes? Is this a British government decision or an American decision? Of course, Donald Trump incredibly proud of his Scottish roots. His name, Donald, of course, a Scottish name. His mother, Mary, a proud Scot, to whom a memorial garden will be being opened as part of this visit by Donald Trump. But it's a curious sort of foreign visit, because the foreign visitor is the one receiving the domestic Prime Minister.
It's a bit strange, isn't it?
It's the wrong way round.
He's welcoming him to his home. You know, come into my humble abode, Prime Minister.
Yes.
It's almost as if he's the leader here.
Not particularly humble, as all things Trump, but there we go. The handshake of Lady Victoria Starmer there, as well as Sir Keir Starmer, meeting President Donald Trump. A very familial sort of hand on the shoulder there. Pleasantries, small talk. I wish we could hear what was being said.
Yes,
but,
I don't think we can, even
sadly,
if we try our hardest.
we haven't snuck a microphone on any of those politicians.
Now, Keir Starmer's had a bit of criticism for using the aeroplane to get up to Scotland, but only because of Labour have previously been quite critical of Prime Ministers, Conservative Prime Ministers who've chosen to do
mainly.
so. Yeah,
yes, they're incredibly critical of Rishi Sunak's use of the quote-unquote private jet, which is actually just the government plane. But of course, David Lammy uses the government plane, Keir Starmer uses the government plane. It's remarkable how many things they say in opposition that is different to in office. Of course, the attitude to Donald Trump is another large example of that. In opposition, how dare the nasty Tories shake hands with Donald Trump, hold hands with Donald Trump. That was the criticism of Theresa May. And yet now, look at them.
Melania's not there, though. Melania Trump is not there, so it's Donald Trump and the Starmers.
Yes, although I believe some of Donald Trump's family are with him as well on this particular visit. Of course, because of that memorial garden to Mary Trump being opened, that is going to be a profound thing for those within Donald Trump's family. But it does look like they're admiring the Scottish countryside.
Oh, it's stunningly beautiful, isn't it, there on the west coast?
Absolutely. Although Donald Trump has had some things to say about the wind turbines that have popped up.
Yes, what exactly did he say? He said, well, obviously very negative about them.
Yes, he was saying they were ruining the view from the Turnbury golf course. So
he doesn't like his windmills. That's the derogatory term for wind turbine, isn't it?
Yes, so I wonder if that's what's being discussed there. I somehow think not. I think everything will be more diplomatic.
Do you not think he'd get it in there, sneak it in there?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe that's what they're pointing to.
Maybe it is. And Keir Starmer saying, "Oh yes, but they create a lot of clean energy, Donald."
and they come at the cheap price of 3 times what we thought they'd cost. That was, of course, the news out of the latest wind auction last week.
So it's not going to be. So they're running slightly late. So they were. Keir Starmer was due to arrive at 12 o'clock. It is now, of course, 12:41. So they're having their little chit chat outside of the golf hotel, presumably, that they're staying.
Turnbury Estate.
Turnbury Estate, sorry. Turnbury Estate, that's the one. And then they'll be having talks, and then there'll be an opportunity for press.
That's right.
And that's where it gets juicy.
Yes, ahead of the bilateral, there'll be a meeting between these two individuals that will actually have microphones attached, which would be helpful. Because as delicious as it is to watch the relationship of these world leaders and try and try our best to lip read, it is, of course, a slightly inferior viewing experience to actually hearing what they can say.
Well, yeah, they're supposed to be talking about trade deals and the like, and our economy, our economic ties in this. I guess we have a better deal than the European Union.
By 5%, of course, 10% tariffs for the United Kingdom, 15 for the European Union. That's a 50% improvement, really, for us. And there has been some commentary in Ireland, I saw this morning, of people pointing out that actually Brexit Britain has been able to achieve superior trade terms with the United States. But there's another thing that will be mentioned here, and it's not going to be raised by Donald Trump, but instead by Keir Starmer, briefing that there will be the issue of Gaza raised by our Prime Minister.
Well, we're in great shape. The trade deal was made with UK. The Prime Minister did a great job. You know, they've been trying to make that deal for 12 years, and he got it done. So everybody respects it. It's going to be a lot of jobs for here, and great for America. And, you know, in terms of even the relationship, our relationship is unparalleled, but it keeps it even closer. You know, when you're able to have a good trade deal, it keeps it even closer.
Is there a better deal to be done on whiskey, on tariffs?
Whiskey? Well, we'll talk about that. I didn't know whiskey was a problem. I'm not a big whiskey drinker, but maybe I should be.
So the 10% tariff, is that a floor? Is the 10% tariff a floor?
Well, we're going to take a look at it. We'll take a look. We want to make the Prime Minister happy. We want to make, by the way, your First Lady, I would say First Lady, she's a respected person all over the United States. I don't know what he's doing, but she's very respected. As respected as him. I don't want to say more, I'll get myself in trouble. But she's a great woman and very highly respected. Yeah, well, we've, as you know, given a lot of money to Gaza for food and everything else. A lot of that money is stolen by Hamas, and a lot of the food is stolen. But we're very much involved, and I think it's one of the main reasons for me.
Yeah, we're going to be discussing it today.
We'll be talking about Gaza. Well, we want to get it going, but as you know, with Cambodia, they just announced a very big behind it is peace. That was going to be a very bad war, and so we're honored to get involved, and it's essentially settled. I think they're going to be settling it today, so it went for a few days. That was going to go on for years. That could have gone on for years. Millions of people could have been killed. We ended the war, and we're very happy about it.
The Prime Minister says that recognising the Palestinian state will be a concrete step towards a lasting peace. Do you agree with his position?
Well, I'm not going to take a position. I don't mind him taking a position. I'm looking for getting people fed right now. For me, that's the number one position. Because you have a lot of starving people. You have people that, you know, the United States recently, just a couple of weeks ago, we gave $60 million. That's a lot of money. No other nation gave money. I know the Prime Minister would if he knew about it, and he really knows about it now because we're going to be discussing it. But we gave $60 million. Nobody said even thank you. You know, thanks. Somebody should say thank you. But other nations are going to have to step up. When I spoke to Ursula yesterday, she said that the European nations are going to step up very substantially too.
What's your advice on the small?
Importance of free speech today.
Well, free speech is very important. I don't know if you're referring to any place in particular. Perhaps they are, but
we've had free speech for a very, very long time here, so we're very proud about that.
Well, what's your advice on the small boats crisis, Mr. President? How would you deal with it? What's your advice on dealing with the small boats crisis in this country? The small boats crisis.
It's about the boats coming over the channel, so we're taking a lot of action to stop people coming over the channel who shouldn't be here. Stopping them coming in the first place.
Well, look, immigration is a big factor, and I think, frankly, if they're coming from other countries and you don't know who they are, and are they coming from prisons? We have them where they came in from prisons. We're moving them all out. We had a border last June, just recent, last month. We had 0 people come into the country, 0, other than coming through legal means. If you're stopping immigration and stopping the wrong people, I give my hats are off to you. You're doing not a good thing. You're doing a fantastic thing. So I know nothing about the boats. But if the boats are loaded up with bad people, and they usually are, because, other countries don't send their best. They send people that they don't want. And they're not stupid people. And they send the people that they don't want. And I've heard that you've taken a much stronger stance on immigration.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work stopping them coming. We just signed an agreement to return them, and we've returned 35,000, in fact, under the first year of this Labour government, of people who shouldn't be in this country. So we're very pleased that we're getting on with returning people who've got no right to be here.
That's great. As somebody that loves this, I love this country. My mother was born in, as you know, my mother was born in Scotland, and it's an incredible place, a beautiful place. And if that be the case, I congratulate you. That's exactly, because, Europe is a much different place than it was just 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And they've got to get their act together. If they don't, you're not going to have Europe anymore as you know it. And you can't do that. This is a magnificent part of the world, and you cannot ruin it. You cannot let people come in here illegally. And what happens is there'll be murderers, there'll be drug dealers, there'll be all sorts of things that other countries don't want. And they send them to you, and they send them to us, and you've got to stop them. And I hear that you've taken a very strong stand on immigration, and taking a strong stand on immigration is imperative.
Mr. President, Prime Minister Netanyahu said there's no starvation in Gaza. Do you agree with that assessment?
I don't know. I mean, based on television, I would say not particularly, because those children look very hungry. But we're giving a lot of money and a lot of food, and other nations are now stepping up. I know that this nation is, right
It's
here.
a humanitarian crisis.
Right.
It's an absolute catastrophe.
Do you think
nobody wants to see that, and I think people in Britain are revolted at seeing what they're seeing on their screens. So we've got to get to that ceasefire, and thank you, Mr. President, for leading on that, and also to just get more and more aid in. And again, America's done a lot on this. A lot of countries have done a lot. We're now working with Jordan on getting direct aid drops in, but this is a desperate situation.
Mr. President, do you think Israel has done all it can do to avoid civilian casualties in Gaza?
Well, I think nobody's done anything great over there. The whole place is a mess. It'll get straightened out, but it's a mess. They have to get food and meantime, food and safety right now. And ultimately, look, Hamas did a horrible thing, and they paid a big price, but Hamas did a horrible thing. But I always said, when you get down to the last 20 or 10, they're down to 20. We got a lot of hostages out, and you helped us, by the way.
Yeah,
but we got a lot of hostages out over the last 6 months that I've been in. I've been in office for 6 months now. And these hostages have been, many of them have come to the Oval Office and they've thanked me so profusely. I said, you don't have to thank me. I did what I have to do. But I always said, when you get down to the final 20, they won't release them because that's like their shield. Very unfair. And so something's going to have to be done. And they were really unwilling to talk. But I've said that. You'll get down to the final 10 or 20. It turns out to be 20. I thought that would be the number. I said, they're not going to be dealing with us. And, many of the hostages are now dead, you know that. And parents come up to me, a woman came up to me 2 weeks ago. She just wants her son back. And I said, how's he doing? My son's dead, sir, but he's with them, and we want the body. She wanted the body of this young boy, of her young, beautiful son, just as much as if he were alive. It was just as important. There was no difference. And it's a tragic situation, frankly. But we get a lot out, and now possibly the fight will have to be a little bit different, but they have totally changed now. They don't want to give hostages. Very unfair. You have 20 living people, in this case living. You have many dead people, too, that they want to get out.
A long time as well.
Yeah, they have 20 living people, and I told Israel, I told Bibi that you're going to have to now maybe do it a different way.
Do you think a ceasefire is even possible, Mr. President?
Yeah, a ceasefire is possible, but you have to get it. You have to end it. You're talking about with Israel. You're talking about there, because we have many ceasefires going on. The whole world is. If I weren't around, you'd have right now 6 major wars going on. India would be fighting with Pakistan. You see what we just did yesterday with 2 nations that we're trading with. And during the trade, I said, I'm not going to do any trade deal unless you guys settle your differences. And we got it settled in 24 hours. I mean, they just announced it was settled, which was a tremendous thing. But Serbia, Kosovo is another one. We have many hotspots that were at war. I think a very big one was India and Pakistan, because you're talking about two nuclear nations. That was a very big one. But now we get help from the UK, the Prime Minister's help. We have cases where we specifically need the help because somebody comes from here that you're aware of. And, you know, when you come from a country, you can do things, and I call up the Prime Minister, and all of a sudden, he's able to do things. True also with other presidents and prime ministers. But we've done it. Nobody's ever done what we've done. We have 6 different major if you take a look at Rwanda and the Congo, Republic of the Congo, they've been fighting for 31 years, 8 million people dead. It was going on. Nobody could go to that part of Africa. They were being killed. If to even walk there, you're being killed with machetes. And it was a violent situation. And I was able to, they liked Trump. They wanted to make a trade deal with Trump. They wanted us to take their rare earth. They want to give us their rare earth. And I got to know the leader of the Congo. I got to know both of them indirectly. And I called them. I said, let's end the war. I don't want anything until you end the war. And we ended the war. As you know, the foreign ministers came up 2 weeks ago, and the leaders are going to be coming very shortly to Washington, Rwanda and Congo. I mean, that's another one that we did. So we've done a lot. It's an honor to do it. It's not hard for me to do it. And I use, not in all cases, but I use a combination of knowing them a little bit, or in some cases knowing them a lot. I know, you know, the leaders of Pakistan and India, I know them very well. And, you know, they're in the midst of a trade deal, and yet they're talking about nuclear weapons. I say, this is crazy. So I said, I'm not doing a trade deal with you guys. And they want the trade deal. They need it. I'm not doing a trade deal with you if you're going to have war. And that's a war that spreads to other countries. You'll get nuclear dust. We'll all get nuclear dust. When they start using nuclear weapons, that stuff blows all over the place and really bad things happen. So maybe we're being a little selfish when we want to save wars too. But we stopped a lot of wars, and it's a great honor to have done it. Thank you all very much. We're going to be talking inside very much about Gaza and the humanitarian aspects of Gaza. Yeah.
Mr. President, what about Russia and Ukraine? You're talking about ceasefires for solutions.
I would have said 5 times we would have had a deal. I've spoken to President Putin a lot. I got along with him very well. But 5 times, and every time 4 times maybe. But we've had discussions. You and I have had discussions. Yeah. We thought we had that settled numerous times. And then President Putin goes out and starts launching rockets into some city like Kiev and kills a lot of people in a nursing home or whatever. You have bodies lying all over the street. And I say, that's not the way to do it. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm very disappointed. I'm disappointed in President Putin. Very disappointed in him. So we're going to have to look, and I'm going to reduce that 50 days that I gave him to a lesser number because I think I already know the answer what's going to happen. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you later.
Fascinating exchange there. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland virtually mute, whilst Donald Trump, the visitor/host of this peculiar visit, has been dominating, of course, that question and answer session with some very interesting answers.
It was very interesting, wasn't it? So Keir Starmer did pipe up on the free speech question initially, which I believe came from Beverly Turner, GBNews presenter, and Keir Starmer launched in there a little to say that no, we've had free speech forever in this country for a very long time, I think he said. And then, of course, the real bit came with the illegal migration, and we read this very differently, didn't we? We're going to have to play it back.
I think Keir Starmer will be delighted with what Donald Trump said.
I think he looked so weak, awkward, embarrassed, and desperate.
So Trump said that Starmer was doing a fantastic job.
He said a lot of other
migration.
things, though, didn't he?
He didn't.
That was in direct reaction to when he said, "Oh, we've deported 35,000 people or whatever," which is gaslighting the nation anyway.
Starmer got his soundbite. That is going to go on leaflets the country over.
But you're looking at it, though.
Trump wasn't briefed on the detail. He was briefed by the Prime Minister live and then said, "You're doing a fantastic job." Starmer will love that.
Yeah.
But of course, we'll watch it back.
I don't know. Let me know, because I thought it looked horrendously awkward. I'm not sure Donald Trump was buying anything Keir Starmer was selling there, but let us know your thoughts. We're going to replay the clip and we can decide together. gbnews.com/yoursay.
It's the final week to see how you can win big, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? The holiday of a lifetime? Or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? Lines close on the 1st of August, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Patrick Christie's Tonight. Weekdays from 9 p.m.
Should we be paying more for the BBC, do you think?
Yes, in the short term. It's for a cost of a cappuccino a week. You don't only get all the television channels, you get all the radio channels, local news, you get the websites, you get World Service, a significant amount of that. You've got a vast range of things. It's not just a television licence. And the BBC licence fee, in real terms, has gone down about 40% in 15 years. What I think we need is two things. One is an immediate increase, significant increase, so we stabilise the situation.
Go on, how much, Roger? What's the fee? Go on.
Hold on.
Well, tell me how much.
Then, secondly, hold on. We need to have a proper debate publicly about whether we want public service broadcasting, how we want to deliver it, and how we want to pay for it. The BBC has cut as much as it can. We should now have a public debate about what we want.
OK. All right, the BBC's cut as much as it can. I mean, grief. I would love to try to see the BBC try to operate on the kind of budget.
I thought you were chairman, objective chairman here. It was a head-to-head with this lady, and you were going to be an objective chairman.
Yeah, well, you decided not to answer any of my questions. But anyway, June, I'll put this one to you. Well, what do you think about the money?
Yes.
June, what do you think about the money being paid for the BBC? Should we pay more?
In 2020, you lost 80, let's have a look, 80,000. And then by 2023 to 24, that went up to 500,000 licence fees not being paid. That's because they don't want the product. A lot of the reason is the biased side of the news, which is why people watch GB News. The programme making, I can understand the creative part of it, but what you've got to look at from the public's point of view is they pay their licence whether they're using all those facilities or not.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock on Monday, the 28th of July. I'm Emily Carver.
And I'm Tom Harwood.
Well, the Prime Minister has arrived in Scotland for a bilateral meeting with President Trump. Trade, Gaza and Ukraine are all on the official agenda. Here's what the US President had to say on immigration ahead of those key talks.
Europe is a much different place than it was just 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And they've got to get their act together. If they don't, you're not going to have Europe anymore as you know it. And you can't do that. This is a magnificent part of the world, and you cannot ruin it. You cannot let people come in here illegally.
Elsewhere, a police commissioner has demanded an urgent meeting with Yvette Cooper to seek the closure of the Epping Asylum Hotel at the centre of recent protests.
Staff have been crying out for tasers to be authorised for use across the adult male estate, and I was very pleased to be able to sign off on this trial. It will run over the summer period.
As the Justice Secretary, she wants to keep prison staff safe as she announces a taser trial in male prisons. Mark White joins a prison officers training session.
At this security facility, a mock scenario of the type of violence that's all too common within our prisons.
Outraged MPs demand action last night as it emerged that a government job site was recruiting what it described as a Sharia law administrator.
Yes, and a powerful speech in Parliament exposing the reality of grooming gangs has been blocked on social media. Yes, due to new restrictions under the Online Safety Act. Has so-called online safety already become political censorship?
And after a nail-biting finish, they did it. Yes, 2 days now of celebration as the England women win the Euros yet again. Today they're off to number 10, and tomorrow it's the big one, an open-top bus parade in central London.
No bank holiday, though.
It's back-to-back European titles for the Lionesses following that dramatic penalty shootout win over world champion Spain in Basel last night.
But the big story of the day is, of course, Donald Trump. We've got the strange sort of phenomenon of a visiting foreign leader welcoming the Prime Minister who is on a visit to the foreign leader's residence in the Prime Minister's country.
Imagine Keir Starmer if he happened to have a beautiful house in Provence, in the south of France, welcoming President Macron to his humble abode and having their tete-a-tete there.
Yes, greeting, you know, welcome,
It's like
welcome
that,
to
though.
my house. It's like, surely in this country the Prime Minister should be hosting the President. But today, at least, it's the President hosting the Prime Minister.
It's our country. Our Prime Minister should be hosting him, surely. I know, of course, all of these ties with Scotland, of course, go back generations for Donald Trump, but it is still a little bit odd. But yes, there was that impromptu press conference. Was it impromptu? Was that always planned? Or was it just that Donald Trump does just answer questions willy-nilly?
I think he does, and the press pack always takes their chances.
They
and
do.
I don't think anyone expected that press conference, that impromptu press conference, not least because for the first 5 minutes the bagpipes were playing. It was almost impossible to hear what was being said.
That was annoying our viewers.
And eventually some smart press officer got them to stop playing the bagpipes and we could actually hear properly.
Well, I'm glad that we didn't give up, because we could have easily thought, oh, well, we're not going to be able to hear any of this, we'll switch it off. But we stuck with it, and we were right to do so.
And there was some gold in there, and we'll be revisiting it, of course, and much more besides after your very latest news headlines.
Very good afternoon. It's just gone 1 o'clock. These are your latest headlines. Well, as you've just been hearing, in the last few minutes, Sir Keir Starmer has met with US President Donald Trump at Turnbury, the President's Scottish golf course, ahead of their bilateral talks today. Arriving to the sound of the pipes, President Trump said that the UK is doing a fantastic thing when asked how he would respond to the small boat crossing the Channel. The pair are also expected to discuss a trade deal, Gaza and Ukraine. This comes as leaders of the United States and the European Union have reached a landmark trade deal during a meeting yesterday. EU President Ursula von der Leyen said it will bring stability as the pair announced 15% tariffs across the board. And the Lionesses have celebrated their historic Euros victory by raising a glass and dancing with a dog ahead of their London parade and trip to Downing Street. England fans erupted with joy across the country as the team defended their Euros title in a penalty shootout win over Spain in the final in Basel yesterday. Chloe Kelly scored the winning spot kick following 2 huge saves from goalkeeper Hannah Hampton, sending supporters in fan zones into raptures. The King has also congratulated the squad and, in his words, the next task is to bring home the World Cup in 2027 if you possibly can. The team are expected to land in the UK later today before heading to a celebratory reception at Downing Street. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer will reportedly convene a special cabinet meeting this week, expected to focus on Gaza as the pressure mounts on the UK to recognise a Palestinian state. Ministers are currently in summer recess, but growing concern over the humanitarian crisis has prompted the suggested early return. Foreign Secretary David Lammy has welcomed Israel's pauses in military operations, calling them essential but long overdue. But he also has warned that limited access won't be enough. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has criticised the police this morning, saying, quote, "Most of us don't even bother to report crime because we don't think that the police will do anything about it." Mr Farage spoke from the party's new HQ shortly after announcing that Colin Sutton, the detective who led the hunt for serial killer Levi Belfield, has joined Reform UK and appointed as the party's police and crime advisor. Newly appointed Colin Sutton then added that public services have got even worse under Labour and warned that too many crimes were being forgotten about as public order had to be policed fairly. And it's day 4 of the strike action by resident doctors in England, walking out in a pay dispute that's seen the government's 5.4% offer firmly rejected. Doctors say they've lost nearly 30% in real terms since 2008 and are demanding full restoration. Health Secretary Wes Streeting thanked the NHS staff who stayed on shift over the weekend. Meanwhile, Kemi Badenoch, the Conservative leader, pledged to ban doctors' strikes entirely if she was elected. That would put the medics under the same legal limits as the police and the military. And a stark warning today as the head of the Prisons Officers Union says it may only be a matter of time before a prison officer is killed amid what he's calling an epidemic of violence behind bars. It comes as Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood approves a trial of tasers now issued to specialist officers in Oxfordshire and South Yorkshire. The devices will only be used in high-threat situations like riots or hostage crises. It follows violent attacks on officers in recent months by 2 of the country's most dangerous and notorious inmates. Ms Mahmood said she refuses to tolerate record levels of violence.
I've inherited a situation where we have unacceptable levels of violence in our prison estate, and I've wanted to make decisions that put us in a position where our staff are safer and that we are able to de-escalate incidents of violent disorder in our prisons in a safer way as possible. I know that staff have been crying out for tasers to be authorised for use across the adult male estate, and I was very pleased to be able to sign off on this trial. It will run over the summer period, and it's designed to make sure that we can learn lessons about the use of tasers within a custodial environment.
And millions of phones across the UK will sound a 10-second siren this September as part of the second national test of the emergency alert system. The government will send out a short text at around 3 p.m. on Sunday the 7th of September, warning people that this is just a test. The move forms part of a new resilient action plan aimed at strengthening the UK's emergency preparedness. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More from me in just under half an hour. But first, let's check in on the markets.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.341 and 1.151 euros. The price of gold is £2,486.26 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 9,113 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 9 minutes past 1. Now, in the last few minutes, Donald Trump and Sir Keir Starmer have been speaking to the media before holding talks at the US President's golf club in Turnbury in Scotland.
OK, well, GB News political editor Christopher Hope, he managed to challenge the world leaders on immigration and the small boats crisis. Here's what President Trump had to say.
What's your advice on the small boats crisis, Mr. President? How would you deal with it? What's your advice on dealing with the small boats crisis in this country? The small boats crisis.
It's about the boats coming over the channel, so we're taking a lot of action to stop people coming over the channel who shouldn't be here, stopping them coming in the first place.
Well, look, immigration is a big factor, and I think, frankly, if they're coming from other countries and you don't know who they are, and are they coming from prisons? We have them where they came in from prisons. We're moving them all out. We had a border last June, just recent, last month. We had 0 people come into the country, 0, other than coming through legal means. If you're stopping immigration and stopping the wrong people, I give my hats are off to you. You're doing not a good thing. You're doing a fantastic thing. So I know nothing about the boats, but if the boats are loaded up with bad people, and they usually are, because other countries don't send their best. They send people that they don't want, and they're not stupid people, and they send the people that they don't want. And I've heard that you've taken a much stronger stance on immigration.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work stopping them coming. We just signed an agreement to return them, and we've returned 35,000, in fact, under the first year of this Labour government, of people who shouldn't be in this country. So we're very pleased that we're getting on with returning people who've got no right to be here.
That's great. As somebody that loves this, I love this country. My mother was born in, as you know, born in Scotland, and it's an incredible place, a beautiful place, and if that be the case, I congratulate with you. That's exactly because, you know, Europe is a much different place than it was just 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And they've got to get their act together. If they don't, you're not going to have Europe anymore as you know it. And you can't do that. This is a magnificent part of the world, and you cannot ruin it. You cannot let people come in here illegally. And what happens is there'll be murderers, there'll be drug dealers, there'll be all sorts of things that other countries don't want. And they send them to you, and they send them to us, and you've got to stop them. And I hear that you've taken a very strong stand on immigration, and taking a strong stand on immigration is imperative.
You're not doing a good thing, you're doing a fantastic thing. The words of Donald Trump on the small boats crisis. It must be caveat, asterisk, heavy, heavy caveat. He also said the words, "I know nothing about the boats." So clearly the President of the United States wasn't briefed on the increasing number of illegal migrants coming across the channel.
I think he just didn't know the term small boats crisis, to be honest, the term that Christopher used in his question. I think he does know that we've got... I imagine he does know because it's everywhere on social media, isn't it, with some of his Republicans.
I think listening to what he said, he took the Prime Minister at face value. He was asked on the small boats. He didn't know what the small boats were. Maybe if the word southern border were used, because that's the phrase the Americans use all the time as the sort of proxy for illegal migration. But then Starmer was able to get in his soundbite 35,000 people deported, of course, most of whom are not small boat migrants. Most of those are people who overstay their visas, and was able to say that, oh, he's cracking down on it. Of course, there is no way Trump would have had that response if he knew that there were 50% more small boat arrivals this year than last year.
No, absolutely, and the British public know that that's not the case. 76% of Brits, so over three-quarters, think that this government is handling immigration badly, or very badly. So I'm not sure that's going to win over. Also, the emphasis there from Donald Trump on the fact that these people are undocumented, potentially dangerous, don't belong in here, that Europe is going down a dangerous path, is something that Keir Starmer, I think, looked quite awkward to be standing next to.
But if I were Keir Starmer there... Of course, but I think if I were Keir Starmer and taking away the political...
Well, yeah, because all of the media are now running with the idea that he's strong on immigration,
exactly.
Right?
That's going to go on every Labour Party
it's going to go everywhere, and you've got, you know, all the other broadcasters, that's the you know, the line. For me, it looked like Keir Starmer was attempting to, once again, in my view, gaslight the nation with false facts. And unfortunately, Donald Trump, yes, didn't push back enough. But I think he got
didn't push back at all
on the major issue of illegal migration, which is something that Labour have been telling us for a long time. Don't worry, these are persecuted people. They all have a right to claim asylum in this country. Donald Trump there saying, well, actually, these people are undocumented and you don't know who they are.
I think the takeaway, though, is that Donald Trump says Keir Starmer's doing a fantastic job.
Well, GBNews' Bev Turner also asked the President and Prime Minister what they thought about free speech.
Free speech today?
Well, free speech is very important. I don't know if you're referring to any place in particular. Perhaps they are, but...
We've had free speech for a very, very long time here, so we're very proud about that.
We've had free speech for a very, very long time here, and we're very proud about that.
Yeah, the police are going to be cracking down on people who post something that questions immigration, apparently, with an elite police unit. Yeah, no issue with free speech.
And, of course, a bit later in this programme, we're going to be talking about the issue of a parliamentary speech by the Conservative MP Katie Lamb, which exposed the true horror of the grooming gang, rape gang scandal. And it's been blocked on social media because of an act of Parliament called the Online Safety Act, because the contents of that speech were too contentious for delicate ears, and therefore it must be blocked on the internet unless you give some age verification service, a scan of your face or your credit card details or whatever else to prove you're over 18.
We need a J.D. Vance there, in my opinion. Anyway, Catherine Forster, GBNews political correspondent. Catherine, what did you make of that press conference then? Impromptu. Oh, the England flag behind you, that's nice.
I thought it was quite bizarre. I couldn't see the Prime Minister's face, but I would have loved to, because there was Donald Trump praising him to the skies about his grip on illegal migration, while the Prime Minister trumpeted how many people they'd returned. Yet we know that numbers crossing the channel are up 50% on last year. And of all the awkward subjects on which Donald Trump Trump and the Prime Minister are very different in their language and approach. Illegal immigration, I would say, was top of the list. Net zero too. I expect shortly we're likely to hear Donald Trump talking about windmills. He's very angry indeed that the view from some of his golf courses is spoiled, as he sees it, by wind turbines. But yes, the Prime Minister will be wanting to make progress on trade, won't he? We're told that it's a landmark deal. I was just in a lobby briefing and they were admitting that, yes, this is a benefit of Brexit. The EU have got this deal now, 15% tariffs. We've got a deal that gives us 10%. We're still paying, of course, well, they're still charging 25% on steel and aluminium. That's a big problem for those industries, something that the Prime Minister is trying to get down to zero. I think much easier, much easier said than done. So we'll be hearing more from Trump and the PM shortly. Then they will both be going across to Aberdeen, where Trump has got another golf course. We asked sort of who was hosting who, because it's quite odd, isn't it? This is the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, but actually he was invited by the President to the President's private property, this golf club. Then they're going to Aberdeen. They'll be having dinner. The Prime Minister will be hoping for some movement on Ukraine, also on Gaza too. But just to point out how resplendent number 10 looks today, those red and white flags in the windows, in the sunshine, and on that, number 10 said what an incredible win it was, how it captured the hearts of the nation. And the men's team apparently should absolutely take a lesson from the women with the bottle they showed. But anyone that was hoping for a bank holiday, the Prime Minister, when he was leader of the opposition, I think, said that would be a good idea if the women won the World Cup. Sadly, that won't be happening. And the Prime Minister was at the game last night and then flew from Zurich up to Scotland this morning.
Sorry, Catherine, number 10 said that the men's team needs to take a leaf out of the women's team and show more bottle. What did they say? Sorry?
Yes, men's team, quote, should absolutely take a lesson from the women, and then went on to talk about the bottle that they showed. You know, we've seen it again and again. They start off behind and somehow at the 11th hour they manage to turn it around. So, yeah, come on, boys, get your act together.
All right, Catherine Foster, a political correspondent. OK, fine.
Well, I suppose the women have won and the men haven't.
I know, but why pit them against each other? We're all a happy family.
Oh, blame the journalists.
Oh, I know. What a bore, eh? Should we speak to the Professor of US Foreign and Security Policy, David Dunn, on this Trump meeting in Scotland with Keir Starmer? So, yes, David Dunn, I'm sure you saw we just had a little impromptu press conference, didn't we, outside the Turnbury estate? I'm not sure if we were expecting that, really, but Donald Trump does just go and answer the questions and then everyone has to, you know, deal with it, I suppose. What did you take away?
Well, I agree with Tom that actually demonstrates that Trump is not over this issue at all. He didn't recognise the terms used, and actually he didn't understand the issues and was able to just be forced to follow Starmer's agenda and on that. What it does, though, I think the broader picture is that he's happy to be supportive of Starmer, and that's a good thing in terms of UK-US relations more broadly. He's happy to take his word on things, and of course then he went on to talk about the issue more broadly, and then he repeats this rather curious line that they're sending us their worst people, as if foreign states are sending these people. Of course, we know that these people are doing this of their own volition through criminal networks rather than being sent by their governments. And so it was an odd statement that Trump made, demonstrating that he wasn't really on top of the issue.
Yeah, I think that this is one of the really interesting things here in terms of the president often has a sort of default mode, which is flattery, but also following the last thing that he heard. I mean, he was incredibly fortunate that there wasn't anyone who disagreed with him there, because he could have easily been put right by someone who pointed out the fact that actually the border crisis, in his terms, the small boat crisis in our terms, has been getting worse, not better. But he was spectacularly underprepared and unbriefed on this issue.
Yeah, but in a sense, you wouldn't necessarily expect him to be on every issue. I mean, he is someone who is famously not keen to read briefing notes. He often doesn't even listen to his own intelligence briefings, to his own bureaucracy. We saw him with the meeting of the South African President Ramaphosa, whereby he actually was using material that he had got from the internet rather than from the State Department, and actually was embarrassed by the fact that actually the things that he said had no basis in fact. So he's not someone who is always a good study. He's not someone who actually, like you were at Durham, where you were a really very good student, I'm told. What we hear instead is that actually he is not particularly focused on the issues, and I think actually what we saw that him there was.
Well, hang on, David Dunn. It could be argued. I just want to push back a bit. It could be argued that yes, you may not know the detail on the small boats crisis, how many people Keir Starmer has deported, how many boat migrants have gone up in the last year, how the key statistics on this and the issue at hand, but the broader issue of illegal migration, he was more than happy to launch into that, into the broader picture of, yes, there are undocumented people coming over who we don't know who they are, potential for crime and criminality. That is spot on, isn't it?
Well, I mean, certainly he has made a dramatic difference in policy in the United States. But interestingly, on that issue, the opinion polls show that Trump is seen by most of the American electorate to have gone slightly over the top on that, in that many Americans, a majority of Americans, are overly concerned about the nature of the way in which people are being rounded up and deported in America. The absence of habeas corpus, the absence of due process, the rounding up people who have a legal right to be in America, often the American citizens, and therefore, even though there is a wider support for the end of migration across the southern border,
how many American citizens have been, David Dunn? How many American citizens have been rounded up and deported from the United States?
We don't know the numbers, because a lot of these people haven't the due process hasn't been followed when they're in custody, but there have been instances of that.
So, well, how many? I mean, are we talking 1? Are we talking 1,000? Are we talking 10,000?
I don't know the numbers.
OK, so we don't really know that then?
Well, we know that there have been...
Do we have a case? Do we have one case we can point to? 2 cases?
Well, there's the case of the Garcia incident, when but he actually had a legal right to be in the United States, and he was deported to Venezuela.
OK, because I think when you have Donald Trump saying we've had 0 illegals coming across the southern border in the last month, I think that does shine a light on the fact that the problem is very much there on our southern border.
Yeah, I mean, without a question, the UK has a problem with the small boats, people coming across illegally in the small boats, and the numbers are a major issue as far as most electorates in the electorate in the UK are concerned. There's a huge frustration at the way in which they arrive, and the way in which they're treated, and the cost of that, without question.
It'll be fascinating to see if there's a follow-up on this particular line of questioning.
I think there will be.
I imagine there are going to be some people in the wider circle of Trump advisors who may or may not have been pulling out their hair at that, or perhaps it will all be smoothed over. It's all happy families. I mean, they do want a mutually beneficial sort of visit. Everyone wants to go away saying what a success this visit was. So perhaps that's the overriding imperative here. But
and he is inviting him to his own country.
Yes.
For hospitality.
Absolutely. Well, David Dunn, thanks so much for joining us and talking through this peculiar Trump visit.
Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump does what's the word? As you say, flatter, even when it's not really, when you can tell he doesn't necessarily believe what he's saying.
It's the way he's always operated.
Best mates with Macron one day, then best mates with Schultz it was, and then best mates with whoever else, Keir Starmer.
You watch videos of Trump even in the 80s in business. So he just calls everyone his best friend. It's how the man operates. But this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Plenty more to come.
If you're everyone's best friend, you're no one's best friend, aren't you, really? Anyway, a powerful speech in Parliament exposes the reality of grooming gangs. It's been blocked on social media. Guess what? Guess why? Due to new restrictions under the Online Safety Act. Has so-called online safety become already political censorship?
But after the break, outraged MPs demand action last night as it emerged that a government jobs website was recruiting what it described as a Sharia law administrator.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain. We like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Bishopsthorpe Road, it's on the verges of York City Centre, and it was once crowned the best high street in Britain, but there is a new issue facing it, and that is?
The cost of parking. It's increased by, wait for it, 500%.
And they've done that overnight without consultation, right?
Yeah.
So it now costs £4.85 an hour. Right, and what's that going to do? It's going to stop people visiting.
It's going to drive people away.
Anna, it's not easy to get around York, I have to say. You know, one road in, one road out type thing, congestion around the place. Yes, there's car parking spaces, but goodness me, I mean, this is obviously very, very controversial. These are the sort of taxes, indirect taxes that come on all of us. It's now going to cost us so much money just to get there, just to see there. Tell us more.
That's right, Eamon, and the City of York Council have introduced this to try and reduce congestion, to try and get more people on buses.
Extra things like this just mean that it's been unprepared, but also it just adds up, and it then stops you from doing other things. And then, you know, for people that haven't got enough money to eat and to look after their kids and things, I think it's disgusting, to be honest.
Thank you for speaking with us this morning, Karen. Really appreciate it. The council say that they are going to review these charges. They're going to look at them every 3, 6 and 9 months and start engaging with the local community to just see how fair these prices are.
OK, Anna Riley.
Where are you parked this morning, Anna?
We're parked here, £22.50 it's cost us.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 29 minutes past 1. Now, hotels housing migrants saw a wave of counter-protests and protests at the weekend.
Yes, police fear Britain could face another summer of unrest, a year on from the Southport riots last summer. Now, across the weekend, demonstrations took place in Wolverhampton, East London, Norwich, Leeds, Portsmouth, Bournemouth, Southampton and Nottinghamshire.
Well, we're joined now by the Conservative councillor Holly Whitbread. Holly, clearly, Epping is the sort of epicentre of this. We saw more protests over the weekend, and yet we're still not hearing much from government. What's the very latest?
So it's incredibly frustrating. As you quite rightly said, we saw more protests over the weekend. Just a few days ago at full council, we did a motion calling for the government to close the hotel, and yet we've still heard nothing. I mean, it's very frustrating on a local level because we are trying to solve this in a diplomatic and democratic way, but the government just remain quiet.
Holly, do you know anything about this? Apparently, the number of migrants being housed at a former RAF base close to Epping, close to the Bell Hotel, is going to have an increased number of migrants. Could it be that they're going to move people from the Epping Hotel to the RAF base?
I have heard rumours around this, although I've heard no confirmation. So the RAF base has been used for this purpose for some time.
Yeah.
It's relatively close to Epping, but it's about kind of 13 miles down the road in Braintree. So obviously that would be frustrating for the communities in Braintree who have their own issues with the use of that hotel, that facility. But we've had no confirmation on that.
Now, this is, of course, a concern because you can see the sort of catch-22 that the government is in. If the government responds to the big waves of protest, and of course there was some violence that was seen in Epping as well, and close the Bell Hotel in Epping, surely that then becomes a big green flag for the government, or indeed for anyone upset with the hotel in their area, to just cause a big protest and make it go away. I mean, this is a problem for the government because they almost don't want to incite a wave of further protests. Do you think that the protests getting larger and louder in Epping could actually have a counterproductive effect?
I do understand, and I've always said, whilst peaceful protest is fine when it's genuine local people, what I hate to see is that kind of almost protest tourism, and you've seen people from both the left and the right come to Epping to cause trouble, and actually I think it undermines the actual legitimate concerns and calls of local people to close a hotel. But what I would say to government, whilst I understand the fact that obviously they have to manage this across the country, the Bell Hotel in Epping has become untenable. It's unsafe both for the community here who actually live here on a day-to-day basis, as well as those residents who are still inside the hotel. So I think it's a real safeguarding issue now, and actually it's negligent of the government just to keep ignoring us.
OK, well, Holly Whitbread, thank you very much indeed, Conservative councillor in Epping, where this particular hotel is. I do take your point, sort of, if they are seen to win, then there'll be more protests so that other people can get the same win and their hotel close to them closes. I hope that these protests just put pressure on the government to seek an alternative to migrant hotels and fundamentally to do more to stop the boats.
Yes.
But, of course, the government will be worrying about protests.
Yeah, I mean,
potentially first and foremost.
But here's the thing.
Not.
I mean, you've got 50% more small boat migrants, and then you've also got the issue of OK, if they don't go in the hotels, then they go in houses of multiple occupancy, HMOs, or you know, it's like playing whack-a-mole. They will always be, as long as the boats keep coming.
It's just a ridiculous policy to begin with. I can't believe we got to this place.
Of houses in this country.
Can you believe that we got to a place as a country where we put illegal migrants in hotels scattered around the country, bought up by the British taxpayer? I mean, if you just think of it, it's just crazy. No other country would do that, surely.
And yet, it is entirely a Treasury-led decision because it's cheaper to put people in hotels than it is to buy up housing. Which is a shocking piece of analysis, but it's, according to the spreadsheets, true.
Crazy. Well, we reached out to the Home Office for comment. We yet to hear a response, but Border Security and Asylum Minister Angela Eagle has previously said the government is working to close hotels, restore order and put fairness and value for money at the heart of our asylum system.
And the Chief Superintendent Simon Anslow says that I want to thank those who attended for the peaceful nature of both protests. Our role is to ensure that you can express your democratic right to protest safely and lawfully, and we had a proportionate and robust plan in place to ensure that could happen.
OK, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up. Yes, the Prime Minister has arrived in Scotland for a bilateral meeting with President Trump. Trade, Gaza, Ukraine are all on the official agenda.
Europe is a much different place than it was just 5 years ago, 10 years ago. They've got to get their act together. If they don't, you're not going to have Europe anymore as you know it. And you can't do that. This is a magnificent part of the world, and you cannot ruin it. You cannot let people come in here illegally.
Well, relatedly, after the break, outraged MPs demanded action last night as it emerged that a government jobs website was recruiting what it described as a Sharia law administrator. That after your latest news headlines.
Very good afternoon. The headlines from the GB newsroom. Keir Starmer has met with US President Donald Trump at Turnbury, the President's Scottish golf course, ahead of their bilateral talks today. Arriving to the sound of the pipes, the pair are expected to discuss a trade deal, Gaza and Ukraine. And the Lionesses have celebrated their historic Euros victory by raising a glass and dancing with a dog after defending their Euros title in a win against Spain. Speaking from the New Reform HQ this morning, party leader Nigel Farage has criticised the police, saying, quote, "Most of us don't even bother to report a crime because we don't think the police will do anything about it." This comes shortly after confirming the top detective Colin Sutton's appointment as Reform UK's police and crime advisor. And it's day 4 of strike action by resident doctors in England, walking out in a pay dispute that's seen the government's 5.4% offer firmly rejected. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello, very good day to you. This is your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, as we go through the rest of today, yes, there will be a few showers around, but perhaps slightly fewer than we saw over the weekend, and some decent bright sunny spells. There is high pressure to the southwest of us, an Azores high that's trying to build in, but it's not going to spread across the whole of the country, and as a result, there is a frontal system waiting to come in from the west later on. But for the time being, like I said, a lot of dry, bright weather around, some sunshine breaking through, but also a scattering of showers here and there. Not many of the showers will be particularly heavy, so generally quite light and short-lived. If you get any of those sunny breaks, it's going to feel pretty warm. Temperatures towards the southeast peaking in the mid-20s here, a few degrees fresher than this further north. Then as we go through this evening, we are going to see the showers continue for a little while yet, but they're generally going to clear away towards the east and die out. So a few showers lingering across some parts of Scotland, particularly towards eastern areas, but like I say, turning dry for a time. Largely dry to start the night across Northern Ireland, but that rain starting to edge its way in as we go through the night. And then across much of England and Wales, for many it is going to be fine. There'll be some late sunshine around, but just still a few showers lingering in a couple of places. Like I said, though, those showers will clear away and ease, and then it's dry for many away from the west, where we're going to have that cloud and that rain because of that frontal system that I highlighted at the start, that pushing its way in. Towards the east, it could turn a little fresh for some, maybe just getting close to single digits, but further west, where we have that cloud and that rain coming in, it's going to be pretty warm. It's also going to be pretty humid and damp. So a damp start to the day tomorrow across western parts. That rain a bit persistent at times, but as it pushes its way south and eastwards, it's actually going to break up a little bit. And so it's going to turn a bit more showery across central southern parts of England in particular. And some of these showery bursts could be quite heavy. Temperatures for many are going to be down a couple of degrees compared to today and feeling it under the cloud.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. Drivers should be cautious on the A9 Dornoch Bridge due to high winds. An accident on the A5 between Glindy Fordwy and Llangollen may cause delays. One lane is closed on the M60 clockwise at junction 12 in Salford. Normal conditions are expected between 2:15 and 2:30. Motorists encounter delays on the A14 westbound at junction 50, Stowmarket East, due to a collision with all lanes closed. Traffic is affected on the A27 westbound between junctions with the A293 and the A270. And on the trains, cross-country services face disruptions at Doncaster and between Reading and Didcot Parkway. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 20 to 2 and an advertisement, I'm British, not American, an advertisement for a Sharia law administrator, which was shared by the Department for Work and Pensions, has sparked outrage.
Yeah, including from the Reform UK leader, Nigel Farage, who's claimed that the country and its values are being destroyed.
Well, the advert coincides with an investigation labelling Britain as the Western capital for so-called Sharia courts, despite these courts having no official legal standing.
OK, let's get more with human rights lawyer Mahtab Aziz. Mahtab, thank you very much. Why would Britain need a Sharia law administrator?
Hi, thank you for having me on your show. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Well, the thing is, these courts, we have to understand, do a mediatory role. They are not there to replace UK law in any sense or form. And often that's actually helpful because it means that issues can be dealt without having to go to court. Similarly, we find in children law that you must go through mediation first before you go to court. Similarly, in financial remedies and family law, you have to try mediation first. So this is merely a form of mediation. That's all it is.
Why then was a government website advertising an administrator for something that is entirely private and nothing to do with the government? Are we not in danger here of mixing private arbitration and conflating it with an arm of the state?
Well, I think that would have happened because, as you know yourself, the courts are so busy these days. I mean, I myself, having conducted family law, know full well that to get a court date, it can take months and months and months. So rather than having, cases which, come in and make it worse, I think the government probably, thinking in a very sensible way, well, let's assist these organisations to try and resolve these matters outside of court.
There are risks, though, given that there are some elements of Sharia law as practised in other countries that are incompatible with British laws. The role of women under Sharia is entirely different than the role of women under modern British statute. Indeed, the rights of for couples that might happen to be same-sex not going to be recognised by these Sharia courts. I mean, these Sharia courts are so very, very different to how most people would understand modern liberal Britain.
It's entirely down to the individual. They, in fact, it's up to them whether they want to or not. There's nothing, obviously, no one forces them to do it. But often you'll find that a lot of these couples may have actually married in a Muslim country. And that being the case, the UK law will actually recognise that marriage.
Is there a risk, Mahtab, is there a risk? If a woman, for example, wants a divorce because she's in an abusive relationship, or even just a relationship where the man is dominant, and she says, I want to get a divorce, and the man says, great, let's go to a Sharia court. I mean, in what way does she have a free choice in that situation?
Well, in actual fact, that actually will assist the woman, because what will happen normally, you see, is that the Sharia court will actually send 3 notices of divorce to the husband, asking him, do you agree to the divorce or not? And if he doesn't respond or doesn't cooperate, then the woman has far higher chance of getting that divorce, which otherwise the husband may have, tried to delay or not let happen.
Right. Do you think that you say don't worry? Sharia law isn't primary, and British law trumps Sharia law. This is just for personal negotiations and the like. But isn't there a problem that there are quite a lot of Muslims in this country who would like to see Sharia law as the primary law and would like to do business dealings or divorces or whatever other family matters, would like to, contain that within the Sharia system?
I personally, my personal experience has been that no, that's not the case. In fact, Muslims, if they do ask for it, it's basically to help them resolve things without going to court. I mean, less expense and less stress and headache. I think that the English law, as it stands, is I would have thought any Muslim would be agreeable to that.
OK, Mahtab Aziz, human rights lawyer, thank you very much indeed. Yeah, I don't think it's wrong to not want to have Sharia law courts in this country.
I think we can probably point to a lot of opinion polls that show that you're not alone in that view. We should say that the Department for Work and Pensions has released a statement saying this is a position being advertised on a Find a Job portal by an independent registered charity and not within the DWP. Find a Job is a free platform to help job seekers and vacancies from employers from various sectors. OK, well, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the weather forecast.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine? Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. We've got some severe thunderstorms on the way across many parts of Italy and the Balkans on Monday and Tuesday. But the good news is the extreme heat across Greece and Turkey is slowly easing, though there are unfortunately still a few wildfires around in places. Those showers also across parts of Italy, maybe the Pyrenees as well. But most of Iberia dry, sunny and settled, as indeed it will be across parts of Madeira and the Canary Islands. Lots of sunshine on the way and very warm, if not hot, over the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Sally first. How can this be good?
I'm not sure if it's good, but I wouldn't say it's bad. I would defend everyone's choice to, if they can afford it, send their child to whatever care facility that they choose. And I think when you're talking about very young preschool children, there's an awful lot of life ahead of them where, you know, they can learn that life isn't always going to shower you with rose petals and tasting menus. If it suits the parents, if it suits the child, why not? And we are talking about a very small sector of society who, A, can afford this sort of option with your preschool childcare, and it's for a very short time. So there's obviously a market for it. They've come all the way over from Singapore to set this up. It's their first outpost in the UK. So, yeah, good luck. If there's a gap in the market, fill it.
I know I'm a mother of 4 and I've got my own business, and even when we sit down for tea at night, I'm still on my phone, I'm still emailing. So for me, it's kind of like, I'm wondering if these parents are working 24/7 and they're trying to offset the guilt because they're really time poor with the kids. I mean, I've got 4 boys and I do think I naturally pamper them because I don't know about you, Stephen, but when I was growing up, I was constantly told I didn't even know I was born, whatever that means. And so it's like, I think each generation we pamper our kids even more, you know?
But Davinia, when you're sitting down with your kids having dinner, are you giving them a crisp golden spanakopita with refreshing tzatziki, followed by smoky jambalaya studded with free-range chicken and prawns? Or are they getting beans on toast?
Funnily enough, Stephen, that's a no.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. Only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up to 10 to 2. Now, here's a treat for you. GB News' Bev Turner and Christopher Hope have sent us an update and exclusive behind-the-scenes look at as the President welcomed the Prime Minister to Turnbury Golf Course. Let's take a listen.
Half an hour wait.
And the rest.
Hello, Christopher Hope here, GB News. Hello, Bev Turner, how are we?
I was just showing our viewers the glamorous setting, Chris, that we get to wait in, which is basically the chair room behind the scenes of the ballroom. Honestly, slumming it.
We do our best, we don't care, as long as we serve our viewers properly.
Well, while I've got you, Christopher Hope, what did you think of that little chat between
It wasn't
Starmer
expected.
and Trump?
It wasn't because we thought it'd be a handshake, go in, but of course Donald Trump turned to face the media. We asked all the big questions on small boats, free speech, Gaza, Ukraine, everything. That's how he works. Yeah. Now we're waiting for half an hour before we speak to him again. So it's a great privilege.
I don't know about you, but I thought Mrs. Starmer looked painfully fully uncomfortable?
I think she just is uncomfortable in the public eye, to be fair to her. I think I think they hold hands a lot. They're clearly a couple who love each other. I think he protects her in a way which is... I find it a bit sweet.
You're very sweet and naive, aren't you, Chris? All I could see was a grumpy wife who wanted to be anywhere but on the front steps of Turnbury.
I think she's just a bit shy. And,
yeah.
I could see her out and about. Where's Melania?
So cute.
It's fun to see the behind-the-scenes area, you know, in with the chairs before the big event.
That room, didn't look very impressive, did it? You're in the locker room.
But we are told the wider estate is much more impressive. But of course, in other news, it was a glorious victory for the Lionesses last night, winning the Euro Women's Final.
Oh, yes, the forward, Chloe Kelly, scored the winning penalty after 2 huge saves from the goalkeeper, Hannah Hampton.
Well, the King has congratulated the squad, and in his words, the next task is to bring home the World Cup in 2027, if you can.
Blimmin' heck. Let's just rest a bit on this achievement. Anyway, we're going live now to GBNews reporter Steve Bennett. Steve, the King wants them straight back into training. The World Cup is next.
Absolutely. Well, why not? Because they lost the last World Cup final against Spain, the team that they beat last night, actually. So they beat the world champions to claim their second European title. That's back-to-back for the Lionesses. We've been here at Leigh Sports Village all day, home of Manchester United women. Caught up with some of the locals. Here's what they thought on the Lionesses' victory last night.
Absolutely fantastic. We were all on a high last night, cheering them on. Got there in the end. It weren't easy this time, girls, but we did it. You smashed it out the park.
Well, I hope the men can do it as well next. Then it will be 2 bank holidays, won't it?
What they've done for women's football in this country is unreal. They've gone from having a few thousand at matches to selling out massive Wembley stadiums.
Oh, it's amazing. Obviously, it's just shown that women can do anything that men can do, sometimes even better.
That's absolutely right. So 10.2 million people watched it live last night on ITV. The game's growing. The interest has never been higher. Back to you both in the studio.
Thanks, Steve. Now, Donald Trump has appeared once again in Turnbury. Let's go straight there live in Scotland, where the President of the United States is speaking with the Prime Minister.
In particular, we've had the opportunity to talk about the situation in Gaza and the intolerable situation, including images of starvation. And I think both of us know that we have to get to that ceasefire and we have to increase humanitarian aid in. And thank you for what you've already been doing, are doing and committed to, because without you this would not be capable of resolution. And I think that if we can work not just on the pressing issues of the ceasefire, but also on this issue of getting humanitarian aid in at volume, at speed, and then we've discussed a plan for what then happens afterwards. I think we can do our very best to alleviate what is an awful situation. So thank you very much for the discussion we've had so far and the discussion we're about to continue on that really important issue. But it's fantastic to be here. Thank you for your hospitality and to see this amazing golf course. I'll invite you to a football ground at some stage and we can exchange sports.
It's been great being with you and thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. And you've done a fantastic job with regard to the trade deal. You know, they wanted a trade deal here for years, many years, through many different terms with different people, and you got it done. So I want to congratulate you on that, and it's a great deal for both. It brings unity. We didn't need unity, but it brings us even closer together. I think it's good for both parties. We also discussed obviously Gaza, and I think before we get to phase 2, which is what's going to happen afterwards, we want to get the children fed. We made a contribution a week ago of $60 million, all going into food. We only hope the food goes to the people that need it, because so much, as you know, when you do something there, it gets taken by Hamas or somebody, but it gets taken. and we're prepared to help. We want to help. It's a terrible situation. The whole thing is terrible. It's been bad for many years, but it's great to hear you feel the same way that I do. We have to help on a humanitarian basis before we do anything. We have to get the kids fed. So we've been sending in a lot of food. A lot of the food that's been going there has been sent by the United States. I spoke yesterday with the president of the European Union, Ursula, who was terrific also on the subject, and she's going to play a big role also in helping us. So we have a good group of countries who are going to help with the humanitarian needs, which is food, sanitation, and some other things. It's very difficult to deal with Hamas. As I said, we got a tremendous amount of hostages out, but it would take place in drips and drabs. You'd get 10, you get 5, you get 2, you'd get 10, 12. We get 12 one time. Many of them would come to the White House, and they were so thankful. But I always said, when you get down to the final 10 or 20, you're not going to be able to make a deal with these people because they use them as a shield. And when they give them up, they no longer have a shield. And the people of Israel feel so strongly about the hostages. Some people would take a different view, but they feel so strongly about the hostages. So that's an ongoing process. Hamas has become very difficult to deal with in the last couple of days because they don't want to give up these last 20 because they think as long as we have them, they have protection. But I don't think it can work that way. So I'm speaking to Bibi Netanyahu, and we are coming up with various plans. We're going to say it's a very difficult situation. If they didn't have the hostages, things would go very quickly. But they do, and we know where they have them in some cases, and you don't want to go riding roughshod over that area because that means those hostages will be killed. Now, there are some people that would say, well, that's the price you pay, but we don't like to say that. We don't want to say that. And I don't think the people of Israel want to say that either, which is pretty amazing. A lot of people would say, just get it done and whatever it is. You could also say speed might be better for the hostages. You go through, with speed, you may have a better chance because they're in deep trouble. They're in deep trouble. You saw October 7th, and you saw what the damage and the horror that they committed. People can't forget that. They tend to forget it, but they can't forget. That was one of the most things I've ever seen. And you just cannot forget that. So we're very much involved. The Prime Minister's involved. I'm involved. And I think I can speak. We just signed a very big trade deal, the biggest of them all yesterday, right? And the European Union is very much involved in wanting to help with the Palestinians in terms of getting people fed. But the area of Gaza, another way of defining it is the area of Gaza. It's a very troubled place, and it has been for many, many years. It has been for many decades. So it's not like this just happened. This has been going on for a long period of time. So that's it. Our hearts are in the right place. We have some good news because the recent war that you just saw, they just announced, I see, the newest of the 5, now this would be 6 that we've stopped. I've stopped 6 wars in the last, I'm averaging about a war a month, but the last 3 were very close together. India and Pakistan and a lot of them. Congo was just, and Rwanda was just done. But you probably know, I won't go into it very much because I don't know the final numbers yet. I don't know. Numerous people were killed, and I was dealing with 2 countries that we get along with very well, very different countries from certain standpoints. They've been fighting for 500 years, intermittently, and we solved that war. You probably saw it just came out over the wire, so we solved it through trade. I said, I don't want to trade with anybody that's killing each other, so we just got that one solved. And I'm going to call the 2 prime ministers who I got along with very, very well and speak to them right after this meeting and congratulate them. But it was an honor to be involved, and that was going to be a very nasty war. Those wars have been very, very nasty. So we've done a lot of good work. We've had great support from the Prime Minister anytime we needed help, anytime we needed any form of support. You've been there. We appreciate it very much. And we're going to continue onward. We do have to take care of the humanitarian needs at what they used to call the Gaza Strip. You don't hear that line too much anymore. You don't hear the Gaza Strip, but it is the Gaza Strip, and it's amazing that it's not being handled a little bit differently. We're going to set up food centers, and we're going to do it in conjunction with some very good people, and we're going to supply funds. And we just took in trillions of dollars. We got a lot of money, and we're going to spend a little money on some food. And other nations are joining us. I know your nation's joining us, and we have all of the European nations joining us, and others also have called, and they want to be helpful. So we're going to set up food centers and where the people can walk in and no boundaries. We're not going to have fences, and they can't. They see the food from 30 you would say yards away, and they see the food. It's all there, but nobody's at it because they have fences set up that nobody can even get it. It's crazy what's going on over there. So we're going to work very closely together with your country, a great country. We also discussed inside that we are, there's a whole new thing happening with regard to energy from nuclear. Studying that, it sounds like you're very far progressed, but that's a great thing you're doing on nuclear. We opened up nuclear about 2 months ago, and it's now safe and very inexpensive.
No, we see civil nuclear as a big part of the future as we go to sustainable, independent energy, and I think that between the two of us we can work very much more closely on this, and we've agreed that that's our ambition, our aspiration, and this is going to be a big part of the future when it comes to energy. And you can see in the last few years energy has been weaponised, prices have dictated both families and businesses across the United Kingdom, and therefore taking control of energy is a huge prize. So the more we can work together on this, the better. And small modular reactors are a very big part of the future here, and we've got great companies like Rolls-Royce involved in that. So I'm very much looking forward to working together with you, Mr. President.
We'll do that. We'll do that. We're going up to your oil capital in a little while. We're going up to Aberdeen. That's called the oil capital of Europe. And that's a great asset that you have up there someday. If they ever change their thinking on that, you have a great and valuable asset. There's a lot of valuable resources underground there. But that's a decision for you to make. But it's a very amazing place, and it is considered the oil capital of Europe. So it's another option that you have. So we are doing really well as a country, and I think that the Prime Minister he's been so supportive of us, and so strong and so respected, and I respect him much more today than I did before because I just met his wife and family. He's got a perfect wife and family, and that's never easy to achieve, right? But
I take no credit for that.
He's become a friend, and together we got a deal done that has not been able to be done. It was a deal that's very good for both parties.
A really good deal for both of our countries, and very, very well received here in the United Kingdom.
So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mr. President, I just want to follow up on Russia. Earlier you said that you were going to change the deadline from 50 days. So what is your new deadline? What
I'm going to make a new deadline of about 10 or 12 days from today. No reason in waiting. There's no reason in waiting. It's 50 days. I want to be generous, but we just don't see any progress being made.
Mr. President, on Gaza, you just talked about setting up food centres in conjunction with other organisations.
Right.
Are you talking about the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation or recognised aid agencies? How will this work?
Well, it's going to be working with the United States. We'll be helping with the food. You know, we have a lot of access to food. We got a lot of food ourselves, and we're going to bring it up. Make sure that they don't have barriers stopping people. You know, you've seen the areas where they actually have food, and the people are screaming for the food, and they're 35, 40 yards away, and they won't let them because they have lines that are set up. And whether they're set up by Hamas or whoever, but they're very strict lines, so we have to get rid of those lines. But we're going to be getting some good, strong food. We can save a lot of people. I mean, some of those kids that's real starvation stuff. I see it. And you can't fake that. So we're going to be even more involved. We did some airlifts before, some airdrops, and the people are running for it. And the Prime Minister is going to help us. They're very effective with that. You've done that before, and for many, they've done that for 100 years very well. So. It's not very hard to do, actually.
Mr. President, you say you love Scotland. You're the most Scottish president ever in the White House. Is there a better deal to be done for Scotland, for Scottish industry, in the deal that you've done with the Prime Minister? Whisky, for example.
Well, I have great love for Scotland. You know, my mother loved Scotland, and she loved the Queen. I don't know, I might hurt myself by saying that the monarchists are going to like it. Some other people would, but she loved the Queen. Whenever the Queen was on television, she wanted to watch. And she would come back religiously. She'd come back to Scotland once a year with my sister Marianne, primarily, and sometimes my sister Elizabeth also. But they love this part of the world. And, you know, we're talking about the Isle of Lewis. We're talking about serious Scotland. That's serious Scotland. There was no doubt about it. So yeah, it gives me a feeling. You know, it's different. You go to another country, you have no relationship to it. You got to like maybe the head of the country or something. But it's different when your mother was born here, Stornoway, right in Stornoway, a beautiful little place.
So is there a better deal to be done? Is there a better deal to be done for Scotland, for whisky, for example? Because of your love of Scotland, is there a better trade deal to be done for Scottish businesses like whisky?
Well, I assume when we do our trade deal overall, a lot of it comes to Scotland, I hope. Maybe all of it should go to Scotland.
It's a very good deal for the whole United Kingdom. And we've already achieved great things under the deal, and we'll achieve even more as we work together.
Mr. President, a lot of it is going to Scotland. I mean, I do know that, but I mean, we're dealing with the UK. But a lot of it comes to Scotland. And, you know, I was very particular. This is a part of the world I want to see thrive. It's going to thrive.
Mr. President, back to Gaza. You talk about Hamas stealing food and stealing aid. What responsibility does Israel have for limiting aid to the region? And if I could ask a follow-up to the Prime Minister, what pressure can be put on Israel, and is that something that you and the United States could work on together?
Israel has a lot of responsibility. They're hampered by the fact that you still have 20 hostages or so. And the people of Israel are very concerned about the 20 hostages. It's very interesting. You could say they could be more concerned about retribution than the 20 hostages, but they really want the 20 hostages to survive and live to make it. You know, many of the hostages came to my office in the Oval Office, and I was amazed by, I would ask them the question, was there any sign of love? Was there any sign of, when you were a hostage and you have all of these people from Hamas around you, sometimes 100, sometimes 10, sometimes 2, but you're a hostage and you're being stored in a pipe. It's not even really, you know, a cave, or it's a pipe, a little pipe. And some said they didn't think they were going to make it because they were losing air. There wasn't enough air, and they'd open up the pipe just in time, but they didn't do it on purpose. They just happened to open it. They got lucky. But I said, did they ever wink at you and say, like, don't worry, you're going to be okay? Did they ever give you some extra food, even if it was a piece of bread? Did they ever give you anything during that time? And some were there for 400 or 500 days now, right? That's a long time, a year and a half, more than that. And not one person said there was any love from anybody. You know, in other words, you have hundreds of people, and you see it in the movies where somebody's a prisoner and somebody's helping. You even see it with Germany where people would be let into a house and live in an attic in secret. You know, you see signs of stuff. I said, did you see anything like, did they wink at you? Did they say, don't worry, you're going to be okay? I never received, I ask that question all the time. I've never received one answer that said, yeah, they really wanted to help. No, the hatred is just incredible.
But, sir, on the access to food issue, what more can Israel do? And again, to the Prime Minister as well.
Well, I think Israel can do a lot. I will say that Iran, I think, interjected themselves in this last negotiation. Can you imagine the beating they took? We wiped out their nuclear possibilities. They can start again. If they do, we'll wipe it out faster than you can wave your finger at it. We'll have to do that. We will do that gladly, openly and gladly. They've been saying, Iran's been sending out bad signals, I'll tell you. For a country that just got wiped out, they've been sending very bad signals, very nasty signals. And they shouldn't be doing that. They shouldn't be doing that. They were talking about things that they shouldn't be talking about. They were interviewed on a recent show, and the foreign minister saying things that he shouldn't be talking about, shouldn't be saying. And I think they got involved in this negotiation, telling Hamas and giving Hamas signals and orders, and that's not good. That's not
Prime Minister.
I would say that we need to get the hostages out. They've been held for a very, very long time, and we must always start from there. But also recognise the situation on the ground in Gaza is absolutely intolerable, and I think that certainly speaking for the British public and myself, those images of starving children in particular are revolting, and there's a sense of revulsion in the British public at what they're seeing, and they know, and we know, that humanitarian aid needs to get in at speed, at volume. Yes, some can be airdropped, and we're working with others, with the US, with Jordan on that, but the trucks need to get in, because that's the only way you can get the volume in. And we do thank the President for the work he's done to try to get to a ceasefire, which we desperately need, but also to put aid in to the region. There needs to be much more of that. We need to galvanise other countries in support of getting that aid in. And yes, that does involve putting pressure on Israel, because it absolutely is a humanitarian catastrophe now. We also need to look beyond that situation to what then happens in the event of a ceasefire, which is desperately needed. And that's why I'm really pleased that we're having a discussion about what a peace plan would look like after that, the component parts of that. And we have to be really clear at this point that Hamas can play absolutely no part in any future governance in Palestine, and and in Gaza, and it's really important that we're clear about what triggered this, who took the hostages, and bringing out the terrorist organization. But I think today the focus has to be on getting that humanitarian aid in.
Mr. President, will the UK avoid your pharmaceutical tariffs, and will it happen before August the 1st?
Well, we'll be announcing on pharmauticals sometime in the very near future. We have a very big plan on pharmaceuticals. We want to bring a lot of the pharmaceuticals back to America, where they should be. If you look at COVID, it sort of taught us a lesson. We were getting our pharmaceuticals from other countries. We almost didn't make any. We used to make them ourselves, and we're going to want to be making a lot of them ourselves, all of them in a sense. But you also have a good pharmaceutical business. We'll be dealing with you on pharmaceuticals also. And we certainly feel a lot better with your country working on pharmaceuticals for America than some of the other countries that were. With the relationship we have, you would not use that as a cudgel. You wouldn't be using it as a block. But we're going to be announcing sometime very soon, I think, pharmaceuticals are our whole thing. And the companies know. And drug prices are going to be coming down very substantially in the U.S., very, very substantially. And that'll happen very soon.
Mr. President, we can all sense your frustration with Vladimir Putin. Sorry, we can all sense your frustration with Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
Do you think he has been lying to you about his intentions in Ukraine?
Well, I don't want to use the word lying. All I know is we'd have a good talk, And it seemed on, let's say, 3 occasions, it seemed that we were going to have a ceasefire and maybe peace, and you divide it up and you do whatever you have to do, then obviously to get to the end. And all of a sudden, missiles are flying into Kiev and other places. And I say, what's that all about? I spoke to him 3-4 hours ago, and it looked like we were on our way, and then I'd say, forget it, and I'm not going to talk anymore. You know, this has happened on too many occasions, and I don't like it. I don't like it.
Mr. President, you have a successful social media site. There are new powers here to censor your site, state-mandated powers.
To censor my site?
To censor your site and Twitter
Truth?
and Facebook.
Truth?
I mean Truth. Is that okay?
Well, I don't think he's going to censor my site because I say only good things. Will you please uncensor my site?
Yeah, we're not censoring anyone. We've got some measures which are there to protect children, in particular from sites like suicide sites. We've had too many cases in the United Kingdom of young children taking their own lives, and when you look through their social media, they've been accessing sites which talk about suicide and encouraging, if you like, children down that road, and that is what we want to stop. There's nothing about censoring free speech.
But that treats all adults like children.
This country is the proud.
But that can treat all adults like
children. Free speech in this country has been for a very long time. We're very, very proud of it. We will protect it forever. But at the same time, I personally feel very strongly that we should protect our young teenagers, and that's what it usually is, from things like suicide sites. I don't see that as a free speech issue. I see that as a child protection issue.
We actually passed a bill in Congress, headed up by my wife, actually, which was to pull bad stuff out having to do with children, because it is a problem. But I cannot imagine him censoring Truth Social. This is more of a very political, and it's been a very big success.
It's not going to happen.
And I only say good things about him and his country, so if they censor me, you're making a mistake. I'm going to give my ambassador the job, make sure it's not censored. I had not heard that.
Mr. President, question about golf? You're a big investor in this area, Mr. President.
Say it?
You're a big investor in this area of Scotland.
To put it mildly.
To put it mildly.
Like this ballroom that we built from scratch.
Do you worry, though, about the risk of increased taxes here? Will that stop you investing? And do you have a message last night on the soccer to the English Lionesses who won the European trophy?
So I think that I have a theory that low taxes bring growth. We just passed a big tax cut bill, the biggest bill in the history of our country, actually. And one big, beautiful bill. I used to call it the great one big, beautiful. We got the word great out. But it's actually called the one big, beautiful bill. It's essentially a very large tax cut bill for everybody. And our country's, pretty soon, I think I can say it right now, our country's never done better. We had a country that was dead. It was dead 6 months ago, a year ago. Leaders from NATO, when I had a very successful meeting at NATO, your prime minister was there. It was an unbelievable love fest with all of those countries. And they agreed to go 5% and all the things. Very smart to do. But many of the leaders said, essentially, they said, your country was dead 1 year ago. 1 year ago, we had a dead, and we did. We had a dead country. We had a president who didn't know where the hell he was. We had horrible, horrible people running our country. I think they were sick people, actually, sick. You talk about censorship, those are big, that's all they did was censor, and they didn't know what to do. And they had high taxes. They wanted more tax, total censorship, transgender for everybody, men playing in women's sports, everything bad they wanted, and they still do. That's what they still do. That's why they're down at 15% or something, I saw it today, the lowest that the other part of the Democrats have ever been. But no, I find that when you lower taxes, you get growth. I will say this area, the Prime Minister hasn't been here very long, in all fairness. I think he'll be a tax cutter. But I find that as we cut taxes, we did more business. In my first tax bill, we cut taxes from 39% down to 22%. And we ended up at the end of the first year, when it was still a little raw, we ended up taking in much more revenue than we did at 39%. It was pretty amazing. And we're taking in a lot of revenue right now, and this was an additional tax cut. So I find, for whatever it's worth, tax cuts are very good.
Mr. President, you moved up the deadline. It's now 10 or 12 days. Is the sanction the same that you're going to slap 100% tariff on anybody who does business with Russia?
So what I'm doing is we're going to do secondary sanctions unless we make a deal. And we might make a deal. I don't know. You don't know. It's we've done so many peace deals. This is the one I started out with, and I know President Putin called me. He wanted to know if I could help him with Iran. I said, no, I don't need your help with Iran. I need your help with Russia. And so that's the one deal that continues to linger. And we're losing 5,000. They're losing. I'm not losing. You're not losing. But 5,000 Russian and Ukrainian kids a week are dying. And that's not mentioning the people that are dying also in towns where, he's lobbing missiles into certain towns like Kiev. And he's got to make a deal. It's too many people are dying. It's a really bloody war. And the 5 in that, they really tell me that number is obsolete. It's like 7.
That's terrible.
So you have 7,000 Russian and Ukrainian soldiers dying every single week for no reason whatsoever. So you would think, based on common sense, you would think he'd want to make a deal. We'll find out.
Mr. President, publicly, have you had any other, through any channels, conversations with the Russians reiterating this?
In what?
Reiterating this new pressure and deadline.
We're going to have well, you're the press. I'm reiterating it to you. I'd say 10 to 12 days. I'll announce it probably tonight or tomorrow. But there's no reason to wait. If you know what the answer is going to be, why wait? And it would be sanctions and maybe tariffs, secondary tariffs. You know what a secondary tariff is. And look, the Russian economy, I don't want to do that to Russia. I love the Russian people. They're great people. I don't want to do that to Russia. But this thing, they're losing a lot of Russians. They've lost 1 million Russians. And that's the, sons, that's the sons and daughters of Russian families. They leave the house, they go, bye mom, bye dad, and then they get blown away. And Ukrainian too. Look at Ukraine. It's a disaster what's happened there. But it continues to go on. As you know, we made a deal where the European Union is essentially involved, but it's NATO, and we're supplying weapons to NATO. NATO's now paying because the United States, because of Biden's in for $350 billion, the European nations are in for about $100 billion. It should be the opposite way, by the way, because we have a big ocean in between. It should be the opposite way. But I think that eventually something's going to happen. It should happen fast. So many people are dying. When I settled out with Congo and Rwanda, they lost almost 8 million people. And it just made so much sense. And if I didn't get involved, they wouldn't have done it. They weren't even thinking about settling it. It was just going on forever. And nobody could go into those territories because they'd get killed. They'd get killed. And now they have I hear it's a whole different ballgame. We settled it. This is one that should be settled. Russia, Ukraine. This is one that really should be settled.
Mr. President, on Scotland, Mr. President, Scotland's First Minister has today set out his plans for a second referendum on Scottish independence. Can I get your reaction to that as someone with deep ties to Scotland? Sorry, Mr. Prime Minister, can I also get your thoughts on that? If the SNP do win a majority at next year's election, then they have a right to hold a referendum, do they not?
Well, I don't want to get involved in your politics. We got enough politics of our own. I will say that I predicted what was going to happen the last time. You remember? I was opening the first course over at Aberdeen, and I was over here, and at the same time, and they asked me that question. I made a prediction. It was the day before the vote, and I made it correct. I like to be correct, but I made a correct prediction. I don't know. I do say that when they made that deal, somebody said that it was, and I remember this very distinctly, I said, could they do this all the time? There was a little bit of a restriction, like 50 or 75 years before you could take another vote. Because, a country can't go through that too much. I don't know the First Minister, but I've heard great things about him. I've spoken to him. I hear very good things about him, and I'm meeting him today. So maybe I'll have a better opinion then.
And let me answer that straightforwardly, because I believe in a stronger Scotland, in a better United Kingdom. And I think that at a time like this, when it's quite clear that there's uncertainty and volatility around the world, the strength of the United Kingdom together is very important for all four nations, very important for Scotland. And that should be our priority, that should be our focus, not on the politics, which feels like the politics of yesteryear now, at a time like this. And I think that the First Minister should probably focus more on his delivery in Scotland than on his constitutional issues, and we might have a better health service in Scotland. But at a time like this, I think the United Kingdom is always stronger as four nations. I think that's better for all four nations. I think that's how Scotland is stronger. Look at the deal that we've been able to do with the United States, a really important deal that we made just months ago. That is what the United Kingdom can do when we act as a powerful set of four nations together, and there are very many other examples.
Mr. President, you toured the Federal Reserve last week, and they are set to meet this week. Do you think your visit has inspired a potential rate cut, or how do you see things shaking out this week?
Well, it's interesting. I did tour it. I toured the building.
Yes.
And if you looked at this building, if you came here like 14, 15 years ago, we've had it a long time. It's been an honor to have Turnbury. But I was on much more opulent walls, ceilings, floors. We had to do this. And we did a very great job. I mean, you see how beautiful it is inside. Everything was saved, everything was preserved. We had ceilings that were in bad shape, that were falling down. You know, it's very old, wasn't properly maintained. Now it's brand new and beautiful, and we saved everything. If you really think here, when you took a look and you were sort of commenting the coloring. Now this is a brand new building, but if you look outside, it's equally opulent and beautiful. And we didn't do that by spending, hundreds of millions of dollars in surrounding a railing underneath the area that you're painting. I mean, I've never seen that. Brand new, beautiful plywood, very expensive, wrapped around a figurine or a railing to preserve it. But you don't have to do that. You can just wrap a cloth, they call it a blanket, and you don't even have to do that if you're careful when you're doing the ceiling. But I don't know what they did. They'd take down a ceiling and put up a new ceiling, and the new ceiling had no opulence to it, or they'd fix the ceiling. But I would say that all I need is a good plaster and a can of paint. And they spent $3.9 billion, and I spent a lot of money too, but it's I'd say 3.8 billion less, meaning I spent probably $100 million making this place incredible.
And you were saying a lot of that was local trades.
I used local trades.
At the windows, I think, in the next room.
I had local trades do a lot of this. We have the most opulent windows next door, and I had a choice. Do I take them out? And, they've suffered through 125 years of storms. You have very big storms in this area. When you have a storm, you have a storm. And they made it, barely, but they were in bad shape. So I had some local people come up, and we looked at them. You have some great craftsmen here, I think is what you're getting at. And they said, sir, honestly, they've had it. We can copy it and do it much better. And they did. If you take a look at the windows in the various dining rooms, they're magnificent. And they're new, and they're much better looking than what was there. Same exact look, other than a much higher quality.
But do you foresee a rate cut?
And they're local people. I use a lot of your local people. You have really great local tradesmen here, yes?
But do you foresee a rate cut this week? Do you expect the Fed...
A rate cut?
Yeah, do you expect
meaning a tax cut?
No. Do you expect the Fed to cut rates this week?
I think he has to. You had 11 cuts, In Europe, they had 11 cuts. In other places, they had 10 or 11 cuts. And we had none, but I'm not going to say anything bad. We're doing so well, even without the rate cut. with the rate cut, it would be better. It affects our housing a little bit. Look, we should be 3 points lower. Each point is $360 billion. Can you imagine that? That's big numbers. Each point, 1 point of cut, is the equivalent of $360 billion in savings. That's big stuff, you know. Those are big numbers in the U.S. Everything's big. He should cut. A smart person would cut. You know, he leaves very soon, so it's like one of those things, but I'll miss him greatly.
Who will you appoint?
On Turnbury, and on Turnbury, if I may, have you or will you enlist the Prime Minister in your effort to bring the Open back to Turnbury? And Prime Minister, you described this beautiful course. Do you agree with the President that it's time to bring the Open back to Turnbury?
Well, as you know, that's not a matter directly for me. That's for the sporting authorities. But look, I mean, it is the first time I've been here. It's absolutely magnificent, both inside and out, and looking at the courses itself and the building. It's incredible. But the decision on the Open is not a decision for me, as you'll understand. I should just pick up on the earlier question, because I for one will say congratulations to the Lionesses. Last night our women's football team won the Euros, well, defended the Euros, I should say, which was a really big success, and the mental and physical resilience that they showed was quite incredible. So there's a lot of bunting out today and tomorrow to celebrate them bringing that cup home.
Did you get the chance to do any planning for the upcoming state visit, and how is that going to work? Where would you stay, and anything about this?
Well, I'm looking forward to it. It's never been done before, twice. We had our original at Buckingham Palace, and now I guess we're going to Windsor.
Yeah.
And it's never been done, and I'm a big fan of King Charles. I've known him for quite a while. A great guy, great person. He looks really well to me. He looks great. So we look forward to coming over. It's going to be, it was one of the most beautiful evenings I've ever seen. I hate to say it, but nobody does it like you people in terms of the pomp and ceremony. And I look forward to being here with the ambassador. Our ambassador is a very, very successful man who just wanted to do this. And I said, how are you going to be able to do that? And he's so committed to, you know, the relationship between the countries. But he's a very great guy and a very, very successful man. So I very much thank you for doing this.
Thank you for the honours.
Mr. President, after the state visit, will you go to London, or are you worried it's no longer welcome?
About what?
Will you visit London during the state visit, or are you worried?
I will. I'm not a fan of your mayor.
Why not?
I think he's done a terrible job, the mayor of London. But a nasty person. I think
he's a friend of mine.
No, I think he's done a terrible job. But I would certainly visit London. Yeah.
Would you want Parliament to be recalled? So MP Nigel Farage has asked for Parliament to be recalled when you're there, so you can talk to the MPs.
Well, I like Nigel. I mean, Nigel, as you know, is a friend of mine. Nigel's done very well. He's a friend of mine. And Keir's a friend of mine.
Would you recall Parliament so that the President can talk to MPs?
Well, Parliament's in recess at the time, but look, I do want to be clear. This is an unprecedented and very special state visit. This has never been done before. There'll be many elements of it that have never been seen before. So this is going to be a historic occasion, and we're all very much looking forward to it. And I was very, very pleased to be able to put forward the invitation when we were at the White House earlier this year. So this is not just a state visit. They're always incredible occasions, and this is an unprecedented second state visit. So you can imagine just how special that's going to be.
The fact that it's never been done before, and that's because it's non-consecutive, and it's the only reason it could be, made it even more interesting, frankly. So it's going to be great. And being with Charles and Camila and everybody I've gotten to know because of 4 years and now 6 months, gotten to know a lot of the family members. They're great people. They're really great people. And in that sense, I think that the UK is very lucky. You can have people that weren't great people. I don't know if I'd say that, but you could have people that weren't. But
we're very lucky to have our royal family. They're absolutely fantastic.
So we really look forward to that. As far as Parliament, if he wants me to speak in Parliament, I'll do it.
There you go.
But it doesn't have to be then. It could be some other time. Maybe we should save it for another time. Well, we'll let the one visit speak for itself. But anytime, if I could be helpful, I would certainly do it. Thank you.
Mr. President, on Gaza, what kind of alternatives are you considering to get the hostages out if there's no ceasefire deal?
Well, there are a couple of alternatives. Some are pretty strong, but the most sensible alternative is talk and negotiation. But I said a long time ago, at a certain point, they're not going to be talking because they're going to lose their shield. The hostages are a shield for them. They did horrible things on October 7th. And the hostages are a shield. And I said, you know, you're going to get down a number, and the number is going to be at a point where you're not going to be able to get them back unless you're going to be very energetic, or to put it a different way, unless you're going to be very ruthless and violent. It's a bad situation to be in, very bad.
Mr. President, back to Russia. You talked during the campaign about President Putin respecting you and that helping you have a relationship with him. Do you still feel that way, that he respects you, considering the conversations you've had that have been really nice, or is he being disrespectful?
I've always gotten along with President Putin. I've had a great relationship with him. And he went through the Russia hoax, too. You know, I mean, it was... we used to talk about it. We used to say, you know, it's too bad we really can't do anything between our country, because if we did, they'd say, oh, it's, you know, some... Look, I was tough on Putin because I was the one that closed up Nord Stream, and Biden came along and opened it up. I was very tough on Putin in one way, but we got along very well. And I never really thought this would happen. I thought we'd be able to negotiate something out. And maybe that'll still happen, but it's very late down the process. So I'm disappointed. And, you know, the funny thing is that their economy isn't that big, and it's having a hard time right now, but it's a relatively small economy. A strong military, but strong economy. And it used to be a strong economy. Now it's not. He's going through a lot. Economically, it's not easy, but it's pretty small. You know, compared to that magnificent size of that land. The land is massive. It's got, I guess, 9 time zones or something. It's a massive piece of land. Russia could be so rich. It could be so rich. It could be thriving like practically no other country. And they're holding that back because we can't. He wants to do trade deals with us. He talks about it all the time. He wanted to. And I envision that a lot of trade with Russia. They have a lot of valuable things. When you talk about rare earth, they have serious rare earth, right? They have just about every form you can have. So, you know, Russia could be so rich right now. Instead, they spend all their money on war. They spend everything on war and killing people, and it doesn't make sense to me. I thought he would want to end this thing quickly. I really felt it was going to end. But every time I think it's going to end, he kills people.
Could a meeting help? And are you considering, has been proposed to meet in Turkey in August?
I'm not, you know, I'm not so interested in talking anymore. He talks, we have such nice conversations, such respectful and nice conversations, and then people die the following night with a missile going into a town and hitting, I mean, recently, I guess, the nursing home, but they hit other things. Whatever they hit, people die. So, Adam.
We've just had a sense of your differences in political persuasion where Nigel Farage and Sadiq Khan came up in conversation. I wonder if you have any advice, either of you, for a very divided, polarised world on how you make your relationship work.
Not differences, not differences. I happen to like both men. I like this man a lot, and I like Nigel. And, you know, I don't know the politics over here. I don't know where they stand. I would say one is slightly liberal, not that liberal, slightly, and the other one is slightly conservative. But they're both good men.
Prime Minister,
I mean, we like each other, we respect each other, we get on, and we've both got a great love of our countries, of our families. And therefore, there's a huge amount that we have already achieved, actually, together, and will achieve as we go forward, leading our respective countries. And, of course, the relationship between our countries. Donald, we were talking about this morning, that whether it's defence, security, intelligence sharing, it's a close, historic relationship. We have fought together. in the past. We've always stood together. And I, for one, I'm very pleased that we've got such a good personal relationship between us. And I think it just shows that even if you come from different political perspectives, different backgrounds, actually there's a huge amount of common ground when it comes to what is in the best interests of our two great countries, and they are two great countries. And I think that because we focus on what's best for our countries, we get along very well, and I'm very pleased that that's the case.
Mr. President, your Treasury...
You know he wants to cut taxes as much as he can. And, you know, politics is pretty simple. It's, I assume there's a thing going on between you and Nigel, and it's okay. You know, there's two parties. But generally speaking, the one who cuts taxes the most, the one who gives you the lowest energy prices and the best kind of energy, the one that keeps you out of wars, he's kept you out of wars, but the one that keeps you out of wars, you know, you have a few basics and you can go back 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, whoever does these things, but low taxes, keep us safe, keep us out of wars, no crime, stop the crime, and in your case, a big immigration component, you know, because I know that your attitude has become strong on immigration, strong on the toughness of immigration, but I think whoever's going to be, I think I won because we had a lousy president, to be honest with you. We had an incompetent president. But I won because I was very strong on immigration. Now, we had inflation. We had sort of a bad economy with this guy. We had a lot of problems, but I focused on immigration more than I did anything else. And I think I won because of immigration. I think I won because of the border. I had a bad border where millions of people were coming in to our country illegally. And as you know, in last month, 0 people came into our country illegally, 0. So we went from a bad, incompetently run border to the most competently run border that anybody's ever seen.
Prime Minister, the President makes it look easy dealing with illegal migration. You must be envious of his record in such a short period of time.
Well, I think we've been discussing illegal migration is a huge issue. In both of our countries, in the United Kingdom, it is a real cause for concern, and that's why we must bear down on it in all its aspects, upstream, across Europe, where a lot of ours comes into through northern France, across the Channel, working with our allies, with our colleagues to break the gangs that are actually running this trade. But equally being very strong that when people have arrived in this country, who've got no right to be here, then we should be removing them to their own country. And that's why I'm really pleased that we've been able to focus on this very intensely and get 35,000 people out of the United Kingdom who had no right to be here. Because the message has to be, you can't make your way to the United Kingdom. We won't tolerate our rules being broken. And if you get here, you will be returned to where you came from. It's really important to bear down on that.
We're such an attractive place for people to come because they want a better life, because we are a wonderful country.
People coming via the rules are always welcome. Of course, we've welcomed talent and people into this country for centuries, literally. But what the British people will not tolerate is those that break the rules, those that come through irregular routes, and that's the really important distinction here. And that's what we're bearing down on. And I'm really pleased that we're through pretty well all of the international engagement I've done, all the meetings I've had, the country we've done deals with. We've done deals with countries in the last 12 months that many people thought it was not possible to do deal with when it came to immigration, irregular immigration, and we returned thousands of people who've got no right to be here. And that, I think, is, for the British people, we're a reasonable, tolerant country where people are coming lawfully to contribute to our communities, to our country. Then, of course, they're welcome, they've made a great contribution, but what people will not tolerate is those that are breaking the rules. And that is an issue of today, but it's a very British thing. We are people who respect rules. We don't approve of those that break rules.
Mr. President.
I can say, though, that I had one of the greatest victories, they say the most consequential in 129 years, so I don't know about that, but it was pretty close. And we won all of the swing states, which never happens. We won the popular vote by millions of votes. We won, tremendous electoral college sweep. And I believe I did it more than anything else because of my strong stand on immigration. And I don't think this country is any different in that sense. I think it's a big factor. And it is with a lot of the European countries. Some of the countries have lost their way, and they have tremendous crime because of it. I mean, you had countries with no crime that now have tremendous crime, and you know the countries, and I know the countries. And so I think it's a huge factor in any election, not just this election, but in any election. I think the one that's toughest and most competent on immigration is going to win the election. But then you add low taxes and you add the economy. He did a great thing with the economy because a lot of money is going to come in because of the deal that was made. But I think that immigration is now bigger than ever before.
Mr. President, your Treasury Secretary is meeting with Chinese trade officials
right now.
Right now. Have you received an update? Do you expect a deal when these talks are over, especially with the August 1st deadline?
No, they're meeting right now. And, we have a good relationship with China. But China's tough. And like you're tough, we're all tough, yes. But we're going to see what happens. We just concluded our deal with Japan. It was very good for everybody. We're making, great deals. We're making deals that are good for us, but we want them to be good for everybody. It's important. It's sometimes I'll do something that I shouldn't do because it's not very important for our country, but it's very meaningful for the country on the other side. And I'll let them have that point because it's very important for them. So I don't know, but we've made a lot of deals in the last couple of months. And then ultimately, as you might as well know, we're going to just, because we have, you have 200 countries, more, but people don't know that. You get a lot of countries. And I wouldn't want to sit down with 200 people and have to deal the way he was calling me all the time. We want this, we got to have that, these are tough negotiators. These are, look, they're smart people, are tough negotiators. They know what they want. And, but we're going to be setting a tariff for essentially the rest of the world. And that's what they're going to pay if they want to do business in the United States. Because you can't sit down and make 200 deals. But we've made the big ones. We just finished Indonesia. They opened up their country. We just finished Japan. They opened up their country. Japan opened up the country. They were totally closed. They opened up to our cars, even to rice. Rice was a big deal. They would never take anybody else's rice. They'd take in rice. But they opened up their country. Philippines, we just finished. They opened up their country. They were very closed. I'd love to see China open up their country. We're dealing with China right now, as we speak. Yeah, we're dealing with China right now.
The deal you've got with the UK is better than the one with the European Union. Is that because you think Brexit was a good idea in this country?
Well, look, we have a very special relationship with this country. Like, my mother was born here. And not only born here, loved it. She'd come back, I told you, religiously every year. And she'd go up to Stornoway and see her relatives. But she loved the country. Yeah, that probably it always has an impact. Always has an impact. But, Germany has a new leader, and I think he's terrific. I think you like him too.
Yeah,
I think he's terrific. My father was born in Germany. Or Germany, his parents were just out. But, so, you have a lot of feeling for this part of the world. I do. I want to see this part of the world do well. Germany, Scotland, UK. I want this part of the world to do well. All of the nations. You do feel a certain. You have a warm feeling toward a part when your parents are born essentially here. And I think maybe it's slightly different. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But maybe it's slightly different.
Mr. President, you completely rule out a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell when you landed. Is that something you would ever consider, and why?
Pardon for who?
For Ghislaine Maxwell.
Well, I'm allowed to give her a pardon.
You are.
Nobody's approached me with it. Nobody's asked me about it. It's in the news about that aspect of it, but right now it would be inappropriate to talk about it. So.
Mr. President, your opposition to offshore wind is well known in Scotland.
Wind is a disaster.
But in Scotland and across the UK, wind farms are.
I know, it's a shame. It's not his fault.
Well,
I used to tell Alex.
Have you spoken to the Prime Minister, and will you speak to the First Minister?
All I can do is give my wind. Look, wind is the most expensive form of energy, and it destroys the beauty of your fields and your plains and your waterways. And look out there. There's no windmills. But if you look in another direction, you see windmills. When we go to Aberdeen, you'll see some of the ugliest windmills you've ever seen. They're the height of a 50-story building. And you can take 1,000 times more energy out of a hole in the ground this big. This big. It's called oil and gas. And you have it there, the North Sea. This big, that nobody would even see. You can take 1,000 times more power because the wind is intermittent, it doesn't work, it's extremely expensive. All the windmills are made in China. They used to be Germany and China, now they're mostly in China. They all come out of China. They say that the blades, which are carbon fiber, you can't bury. Oh, okay, you can't bury. What are you going to do, dump them in the ocean someplace? Because they only last a certain period of time. And remember, a windmill has a life of 8 years, especially when they're out in the salty sea and they start to rot and to rust. You have to replace them. It's very hard to replace them. Wind needs massive subsidy. And you are paying in Scotland and in UK and all over the place where they have massive subsidies to have these ugly monsters all over the place. So I've restricted windmills in the United States. Now, a couple, we have, you know, the poor stupid people at the beginning, they approved them, so they have their full approvals. But I've restricted windmills in the United States because they also kill all your birds. You know, they wipe out. You know, it's interesting. If you shoot a bald eagle in the United States, they put you in jail for 5 years. And yet windmills knock out hundreds of them. They don't do anything. You explain that. So it's a very expensive energy. It's a very ugly energy, and we won't allow it in the United States.
So we believe in a mix, and obviously oil and gas is going to be with us for a very long time, and that'll be part of the mix. But also wind, solar, increasingly nuclear, which is what we've been discussing this morning, civil nuclear as we go forward. The most important thing for the United Kingdom is that we have control of our energy and we have energy independence and security, because at the moment, whatever the attributes and facilities in the North Sea, that is sold onto the international market, and we buy it back off the international market. That was a historic mistake in my view. But what we need is a mix so that we get the energy security that we need for the future, and that's the focus of everything that we're doing. But what we have discussed today is that the energy prices are too high, which is why we recently took measures to reduce the energy prices, particularly for energy-intensive businesses. But in the long run, the only way to reduce your energy prices is to take control of your energy, and that's what we're doing, taking control of our energy.
Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Our King Charles, who you're a great friend of, is a big fan of eco-projects, of windmills, as you call them. Is he wrong?
So King Charles is an environmentalist, I will tell you. And I say that in a positive way, not a negative way. And, every time I've met with him, he talked about the environment, how important it is. And I'm all for it. I think that's great. You know, King Charles, more than anything else, loves the country. But I got to know him very well. He truly is an environmentalist. He wants clean air, clean water, you know, all of the things that we all want.
Mr. President, you have said that you have not been briefed on the Epstein files, or your name has not appeared in the Epstein files. But doesn't the AG have to tell you if your name is in the files?
Well, I haven't been overly interested in it. You know, it's a hoax that's been built up way beyond proportion. I can say this: those files were run by the worst scum on earth. They were run by Comey. They were run by Garland. They were run by Biden and all of the people that actually ran the government, including the auto pen. Those files were run for 4 years by those people. If they had anything, I assume they would have released it. The whole thing is a hoax. They ran the files. I was running against somebody that ran the files. If they had something, they would have released. Now, they can easily put something in the files that's a phony. Like, as an example, Christopher Steele, a person you know well, happens to be from your country. But Christopher Steele, as an example, wrote a book, a dossier. We call it the fake news dossier. And the whole thing was a fake. The whole thing was a fake. They could put things in the file that are fake. But those files were run by bad, sick people. If they had anything, why didn't they use it when I was killing Joe and then he gave out because he was 25 points down? And then I got somebody new. Nobody even knew anything about her. She was a horrible vice president. She was our border czar, but she never went to the border. She never once called a border patrol agent to find out how we do. But she was the border czar. Her name was Camila. Nobody knows her last name. It was Harris. But nobody knew her last name. So I ended up, how would you like to end up in a race where you're killing somebody, you're beating him, and then they say, all right, we'll take him out. He's not working. Let's put somebody else. And then she had a 6-week honeymoon. It was amazing. They predicted she would have a 6-week honeymoon, and she did. And then she got slaughtered.
Do you feel that?
But think of it. Those files were run by these people. They were run by my enemy. If there was anything in there, they would have used them for the election.
Do you feel that?
That drawing, I think I heard you say something the other day, that the drawing that was the subject of the Wall Street Journal report.
I don't do drawings. I'm not a drawing person.
Do you think it was fraudulent?
I don't do drawings. Sometimes people say, would you draw a building? And I'll draw 4 lines and a little roof, for a charity. So, but I'm not a drawing person. I don't do drawings of women, that I can tell you. They say there's a drawing of a woman, and I don't do drawings of women. And also, Epstein was always a very controversial guy. I was at a very high position, pretty much all my life. In all fairness, I've been doing this for a long time. I had the top show on television. I had the #1 bestsellers. I had everything, right? And I was a very successful business guy. He was a very controversial. Who would do a controversial drawing? Now, with that being said, they say there were many letters done by many people, and many big people, big successful people. But I just don't. When you talk about files, I just keep going back, and other people too. Even the enemy says this thing is not correct, because if we had it, we would have used it on the guy. It's a bad issue. They say it's a good issue for Trump. Do you know that my poll numbers are up 4.5 points since this ridiculous Epstein stuff? My poll numbers have gone up 4.5 points because people don't buy it. Okay, people don't buy it. And he's gone, and we want to focus on trade deals. I want to focus on the deal we just made with the European Union, which is the biggest trade deal in history. It's the biggest deal, I think, in history, not just trade deal. So if they would have had something, they would have used it.
People keep writing stories about the time you threw him out of Mar-a-Lago. Can you settle that? What was it about? What caused the breach with him?
That's such old history. Very easy to explain, but I don't want to waste your time by explaining it. But for years, I wouldn't talk to Jeffrey Epstein. I wouldn't talk because he did something that was inappropriate. He hired help. And I said, don't ever do that again. He stole people that work for me. I said, don't ever do that again. He did it again. And I threw him out of the place, persona non grata. I threw him out. And that was it. I'm glad I did, if you want to know the truth.
Mr. President,
and by the way, I never went to the island, and Bill Clinton went there supposedly 28 times. I never went to the island, but Larry Summers, I hear, went there. He was the head of Harvard, and many other people that are very big people. Nobody ever talks about them. I never had the privilege of going to his island, and I did turn it down, but a lot of people in Palm Beach were invited to his island. In one of my very good moments, I turned it down. I didn't want to go to his island. Yeah.
Mr. President, on Gaza, next time you speak to Netanyahu, what will you ask him to do?
Say it one louder.
Next time you speak to Netanyahu, what will you ask him to do?
Well, I'm going to say, look, we're giving money and we're giving food, But we're over here, and we're over in the United States. I think I can speak for the Prime Minister. We're giving money and things. He's got to sort of like run it.
What should you do?
Well, I want them to make sure they get the food.
Open.
I want to make sure they get the food, every ounce of food. I think you want to say
absolutely. It's an absolute focus.
because that food is being delivered,
Mr. President,
or at least all of it.
you said you were going to set essentially a tariff for the rest of the world. What percent will that tariff be?
I would say it'll be somewhere in the 15 to 20% range.
So maybe 15 or 20 or?
No, I said, I sort of know, but I just want to be nice. I would say in the range of 15 to 20%.
Is there an offer you might operate to UK steel?
Probably one of those two numbers.
It's an offer for UK and steel aluminium makers here are worried about tariffs. Will you do anything to help them here?
Aluminum?
And steel.
You're a pretty big aluminum maker.
Yeah, that's already covered in the deal that we've agreed, so we're just doing the implementation of that.
But Mr. President, when will that come down from 25% to 0?
You mean on the overall, on the world?
On steel and aluminium from Britain, it's 25.
Well, we're going to know pretty soon. We're going to have it pretty soon.
Mr. President, on Canada...
You have no idea that these people are tough negotiators, okay? But we're a big buyer of steel, but we're going to make our own steel, and we're going to make our own aluminum for the most part. But we buy a lot of aluminum from right here, and a lot of steel, too.
Yeah.
We have a lot of unhappy. We have a lot of unhappy.
Who are you with? Because you're asking such nice
Sorry,
questions.
GB News. Bev Turner from GB News.
Very good.
We have a lot of unhappy farmers in this country at the moment, and I'm sure the Prime Minister won't thank me for raising this. We've had changes to inheritance tax, which mean a lot of farmers feel they're going to lose their farms when they die or their father dies. How important are farmers to a country?
You mean they're going to lose the farm because of estate taxes?
Correct. So that when they die, they'll have to pay so much. They're cash poor, but they have great properties.
I know. Well, they're cash poor. They're land rich and cash poor. A lot of people are. I've had that too. Sometimes I'm land rich and cash. Sometimes I'm cash rich and land poor. I like it both ways, but as I get older, I like the more conservative route. So I did something that I don't know if you can do, but it was great. I love our farmers. As you know, in our tax bill, we have a clause that's very important. We were losing a lot of farms to the banks because a loving mother and father would die and left their farm to their children or their child, but their children, their family. And they loved their family, and they thought they were doing them a favor, but they had a 50% tax to pay. So the land would get valued, and at a high number, because some of the farms were valuable, but they didn't, they couldn't quantify it. And they go out and borrow money to pay the estate tax or the death tax, as it's called. And they'd overextend, and they'd lose the farm. And they'd commit suicide in many cases.
Yeah, we're seeing that.
No. Our levels are nowhere near 50%.
They're not 50%, but the dissatisfaction is real.
We've just introduced where it's paid over many years, works out about an extra 2% a year over 10 years. So it's not at those levels by any stretch of the imagination. But the other thing that we've done, as you know, is make sure that we've got a pathway for farmers that actually increases their year-on-year income, which is the most important thing. And in all of the deals that we do, we ensure that our farmers are the central focus for much of it, particularly on agriculture, including in the US deal, because I don't think we can go on for years saying that it's acceptable for farmers to have a year-on-year income which isn't sufficient. We've got to fix that problem. We can't simply live with that problem, so it's a very different situation.
Well, we ended the estate tax. There is no estate tax on farms.
Maybe you could do the same.
So when a parent leaves their farm, because again, a lot of these farms, they don't make a lot of money, but it's a way of life, and they love their way of life, and they love that dirt. That dirt is the most beautiful thing they've ever seen. They love it. I mean, they're farmers. They love doing it. They don't know how to do anything else, but they don't want to do anything else. I speak to farmers. I say, would you like to live in my penthouse in Manhattan? It's always beautiful. No, sir, I want this farm. And what happens is, we were losing a lot of people to suicide. They'd borrow money to pay the estate tax, and they were not able to pay it. And some banks are ruthless; they wouldn't do anything, and they would end up committing suicide. We have totally ended the estate tax on those situations. So there's no estate tax. So when a parent leaves the farm to the kids, they don't have to worry about their local, possibly unfriendly banker coming in and stealing their farm.
Mr. President, back to migration, one of the hot flashpoint issues in Britain is migrants being housed in hotels and people in the local communities not feeling safe. Is that an appropriate place to be housing migrants? Does Britain need its own version of the alligator Alcatraz?
Anybody illegally should not be allowed in the country. Thank you.
Wow, well, I must say, Donald Trump there speaking early this afternoon, and Keir Starmer spoke to the world's media after holding talks to the US President Golf Club in Turnbury in Scotland. The pair of knights announced the final details of the US-UK trade deal and gave their thoughts on the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Incredible conversation. Donald Trump answering many, many questions. We'll go through some of the things that he talked about, but let's cross live to Downing Street and speak to political correspondent Catherine Forster. Catherine, quite an incredible meeting there with Donald Trump, answering all the questions fully, sitting there with Keir Starmer and commenting very politely on things that affect our country without causing any problems, like he was talking about farmers earlier. Catherine, tell us a bit more about what you got from that conversation.
Yes, it was quite incredible. It was going on, I think, for well over an hour. Back with the previous president, Joe Biden, you'd literally have a couple of comments, 60 seconds, in and out. I was there in Washington last year. This, a completely different thing altogether. So many questions. And Donald Trump, I think, really in his happy place because he loves golf. He's at his golf course in Scotland. He told us of the 100 million that he says he'd spent on it, bringing lots of local jobs, which could be why there's quite a lot of happiness actually around the locals that he's up there bringing a lot of money to Scotland. And talking about the Prime Minister, saying that their relationship is unparalleled, saying what a good job he's doing, how he's done a fantastic job in getting this deal that everybody wanted and nobody else could get, saying all the right things about the Prime Minister, about his love of the UK. Of course, his mother was Scottish, talking about the King as well and saying nobody does it like you people, really looking forward to his state visit. But it wasn't all sunshine, quite a lot of difficult moments for the Prime Minister. I'll come to those in a sec. But first of all, on Gaza, an agreement that they want to get the children fed, a huge humanitarian catastrophe, as the Prime Minister says, unfolding in Gaza. He's running out of patience with Vladimir Putin, the Russian leader. He's going to give him now just 10 to 12 days, he says, to get a deal. But I thought lots of awkward questions domestically because, well, let's start just with net zero. The president hates the wind turbines. They are overlooking one of the holes at his Turnbury course. It's even worse, he says, up in Aberdeen. He thinks that they are dreadful. He says you're paying massive subsidies to have these monsters. The Prime Minister, when he could get a word in edgeways, was saying, well, look, we believe in a mix and nuclear power is part of that. They seem to be agreed on nuclear power, but the President couldn't resist talking about Aberdeen and all the oil in the North Sea, and that basically he thinks we should be using that. Then on tax on the economy, he said that he thinks that lower taxes is the way to get growth. He said lower taxes bring growth, and if you lower taxes, you get growth. He then went on to say that he thought he'd won the election because of immigration and because of the border, the need to control the border, something which this government isn't managing to do, let's face it. Crossings are up 50%, okay. They are also removing people and they are processing people quicker. But I thought it must have been pretty hard for the Prime Minister. He has managed to get on extremely good terms with the president and stay that way, despite the fact that they are very, very different people with very different approaches on many matters. Also, we heard a question about free speech, an allegation that the new Online Safety Act that has introduced effectively censorship by the back door. The Prime Minister said we're not censoring anybody, but we have to keep our children safe online. But yeah, Donald Trump in the best of moods and saying, I can only say good things about him. That's the Prime Minister. I think he'd be delighted if domestically he was as popular with the British public as he is with the American president.
Yes, no doubt he would be, Catherine. Interesting. As Catherine Forster, she's live there in outside Downing Street. I thought it was quite interesting that he called the Mayor of London. He said he's done a terrible job. He's a nasty person. Let's go over to GBNews' political editor, Christopher Hope, who challenged the world leaders. Now, this is what he did in that particular meeting. He challenged the world leaders on immigration and the small boat crisis. Here's what President Trump had to say.
What's your advice on the small boats crisis, Mr. President? How would you deal with it? What's your advice on dealing with the small boats crisis in this country? The small boats crisis.
It's about the boats coming over the channel, so we're taking a lot of action to stop people coming over the channel who shouldn't be here, stopping them coming in the first place.
Well, look, immigration is a big factor, and I think, frankly, if they're coming from other countries and you don't know who they are, and are they coming from prisons? We have them where they came in from prisons. We're moving them all out. We had a border last June, just recent, last month. We had 0 people come into the country, 0, other than coming through legal means. If you're stopping immigration and stopping the wrong people, I give my hats are off to you. You're doing not a good thing. You're doing a fantastic thing. So I know nothing about the boats, but if the boats are loaded up with bad people, and they usually are, because other countries don't send their best. They send people that they don't want, and they're not stupid people, and they send the people that they don't want. And I've heard that you've taken a much stronger stance on it.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work stopping them coming. We just signed an agreement to return them, and we've returned 35,000, in fact, under the first year of this Labour government, of people who shouldn't be in this country. So we're very pleased that we're getting on with returning people who've got no right to be here.
That's great. As somebody that loves this, I love this country. My mother was born in, as you know, born in Scotland, and it's an incredible place, a beautiful place. And if that be the case, I congratulate you. That's exactly, because Europe is a much different place than it was just 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And they've got to get their act together. If they don't, you're not going to have Europe anymore as you know it. And you can't do that. This is a magnificent part of the world, and you cannot ruin it. You cannot let people come in here illegally. And what happens is there'll be murderers, there'll be drug dealers, there'll be all sorts of things that other countries don't want. And they send them to you, and they send them to us, and you've got to stop them. And I hear that you've taken a very strong stand on immigration, and taking a strong stand on immigration is imperative.
Yes, that's what Keir Starmer said, but Trump did admit that he doesn't know too much about the boat crisis. I don't know whether that's true or not. Perhaps he just said that because he didn't want to be, he wanted to keep it polite. But at the meeting between the Prime Minister and President, GBNews' Bev Turner asked the leaders about free speech and censorship online from the Online Safety Act. Have a listen.
Mr. President, you have a successful social media site. There are new powers here to censor your site, state-mandated powers.
To censor my site?
To censor your site and Twitter
Truth?
and Facebook.
Truth?
I mean Truth. Is that okay?
Well, I don't think he's going to censor my site because I say only good things. Will you please uncensor my site?
Yeah, we're not censoring anyone. We've got some measures which are there to protect children, in particular from sites like suicide sites. We've had too many cases in the United Kingdom of young children taking their own lives, and when you look through their social media, they've been accessing sites which talk about suicide and encouraging, if you like, children down that road, and that is what we want to stop. Nothing about censoring free speech.
But that treats all adults like children.
This country is proud.
But that can treat all adults like children.
Free speech in this country has been for a very long time. We're very, very proud of it. We will protect it forever. But the same time, I personally feel very strongly that we should protect our young teenagers, and that's what it usually is, from things like suicide sites. I don't see that as a free speech issue. I see that as a child protection
We
issue.
actually passed a bill in Congress, headed up by my wife, actually, which was to pull bad stuff out having to do with children, because it is a problem. But I cannot imagine him censoring Truth Social. This is more of a very political, and it's been a very big success.
It's not going to happen.
And I only say good things about him and his country, so if they censor me, you're making a mistake. I'm going to give my ambassador the job, make sure it's not censored. I had not heard that.